Thank you. You may be seated. The municipality of Whitestone recognizes all of Canada resides on traditional, unceded and/or treaty lands of the Indigenous people of Turtle Island. We recognize our municipality on the Robinson Huron Treaty Territory is home to many past, present, and future Indigenous families. This acknowledgement of the land is the declaration of our commitment and collective responsibility to reconcile the past and to honor and value the culture, history, and relationships we have with one another. I'll now ask if any councillor has a pecuniary interest to declare in connection with tonight's proceedings. All right, thank you. We know.
Are the microphones turned on?
I think what I'm going to ask is that councillors, if you have your mics turned on, maybe you can.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, are you able to hear me? And if anybody can hear me, we can't hear anything that's being said.
I can hear you, Scott.
I can hear you also.
Test.
Can
Can anyone hear me? Who's on Zoom?
Yep, I can hear you now, Michelle.
Can you hear me, Councillor Nash?
Yeah, I can now hear you, Mayor.
Okay, so I'm sorry you missed the first part there, but you see what the problem is. We've got an echo from the audio now. I've got this turned off, but if I turn it on, it'll just blow up.
So we were in the middle of a recorded vote, and this was to adopt the agenda. Councillor Nash? Councillor Nash, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Michelle.
So you can hear me now. We were in the middle of a recorded vote to adopt the agenda, and your name came up.
Oh. Sorry about that. I didn't hear the question. Somebody's drifting in and out. I'm not sure if it's me. I can hang up and try and dial back in if it would help. I'm not sure if others are having an issue on the Zoom or if it's just me.
It's not just you.
So I see Don, thank you, Don. Are you having trouble hearing me?
It was cutting in and out, but it's sort of muffled, but we can hear you now, Michelle.
You can hear me now, okay? Councillor Nash, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's muffled, but I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Very muffled.
Hmm.
Would you like to repeat the question, Mr. Mayor, with regard to
Well,
the
yeah,
agenda?
I think what we're going to need to do though is we're going to have to fix this somehow or other before we can consider. The
Right.
people cannot hear. I'm believing that people remotely cannot hear anything I'm saying. Is that correct?
We can hear you now.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Quite well.
Oh, all right. Well, then I don't know what happened. I guess we can carry on. And my apologies for this. We've had already two funny things happen tonight, but that weren't happening before the meeting started. But in any case, I was calling the question on the approval of the agenda, and we have recorded votes because at least one of our councilors is not present in the room. So everyone in the room, I believe, had voted except for Councillor Nash. Am I correct?
No, Councillor Bray was yes, Councillor Lamb was yes, and I'd come to Councillor Nash.
And that would be a yes.
Thank you. Councillor Woods
Yes.
and Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Thank you. That's carried.
All right. Well, hopefully we're over this hump here. The next item on our agenda is a delegation by the Board of Management of Belvedere Heights. And I'm going to just welcome the board members that are present with us this evening. We have with us and they're on the Zoom call. We have with us the chair of the board, Art Coles. We have board member Paul Borneman from the town of Parry Sound, and board member Don Carmichael, who is a government appointee to the board of Belvedere. So welcome, gentlemen. And I will turn the floor over to you. They have they're going to give us a presentation with focusing specifically, I believe, on life lease. And there is some background material in your package.
You should be able to share your screen, Mr. Carmichael.
Okay. Are we on now then?
Yes,
George?
please.
Yeah.
Please go ahead when you're ready.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's
We've
our
got your
pleasure.
slides up on Zoom. You should see them now.
Yes, they're there. It's our pleasure to be here in front of you, Whitestone councilors and Mayor Comrie. And Paul Borneman, just further identification, Paul from Parry Sound, but is the vice chair of our board, and Don Carmichael is our chair of our finance committee. And we're pleased to put this presentation in front of you, and we hope that if you have any questions, you can answer. Be happy to answer those at the end of the presentation. So I'm going to just ask Don if he would just go ahead and do the presentation.
Thank you, Art. And I'm going to try to be, there we go. Try to be brief, because I know you have questions. So the Board of Management is a provincially created beast by an order in council with a board structure that is predetermined. We do not own the beds, unlike any other municipal home. District municipal homes only manage beds on behalf of the Ministry of Long-Term Care, and there are 8 of us, of course, 8 municipalities that share the responsibility of this home. And for other homes can sell their license. We can return the beds to the ministry, which is exactly what Whitestone did, and all the other 7 did. 2 years ago, we passed a bylaw asking the ministry to create a campus of care so that we could actually then move the 101 long-term care beds from Belvedere to a brand new 160-bed facility, consolidating long-term care on the Westbury Sound Health Center grounds with Lakeland. And so that would then give us the 101 beds would move, and we'd have, dearly needed 59 new bed capacity for those souls that have been waiting 2 years on the wait list to get into long-term care. We met with Life Lease back then to say this was happening. I know there was some confusion about the issue then. The Life Lease building may or may not close, depending what happens to the 101 bed facility. The only thing we know for sure is once the 101 beds is gone, we basically have a shell that's essentially a hostel, shared washrooms, communal showers, and that kind of thing. So it would have to be renovated for some kind of housing. And in any event, the municipalities do have some obligation in terms of Life Lease if there has to be a movement at some point in the future. So Life Lease is not a condo. There's a lot of confusion that it is a right to occupy a unit. At the moment, there is no legislation governing Life Lease. There was a private member's bill, which is now coming back. But that bill clearly makes it clear it's a rental arrangement, not an ownership arrangement. And we'll see what happens with the next iteration of that. Under the current standing, residents can stay up to 50 years if they can live independently and are in good standing. In other words, pay their bills. From the provincial perspective, the little primer that they've developed, it's really a attainable housing strategy for elderly. It's not a real estate investment. And the other closest real estate projects are in the Barrie area that are in the price of 240 to 250 square foot range, not the $400 to $500 square foot range that you'd find in a higher end condo. Just for your interest, the now dated impact assessed value for Life Lease is just under 4.7 million, $213 per square foot. And the financing models in the province vary a lot across Life Lease. Market value is ours. There's price indexing, fixed value. Those are things that we've looked at, declining balance and zero balance. So here's the current status is the Life Lease residents have the right to remain there for as long as they like under the terms, right? As long as they can live independently. When they sell the unit, as per the agreement, it's on the open market. If unsold after 60 days, we can ask them to reduce the price. One option is if we secure the line of credit with the municipality's support, we then would have the option to buy the units back from them, which helps them avoid the real estate market. And many of you know we've already purchased 5 back based on from the reserves that we had. Over the last couple of years, we haven't had people on the wait list. People were preferring rental option, but now we actually have 2 people waiting to purchase a unit on the wait list, willing to sign the new occupancy agreement. So that's quite a change over the last couple months. As of today, we had another meeting with Life Lease today to present the audited financial statements. We've had 3 meetings over the last few months to discuss their issues. And we asked them today if there are any outstanding issues. There are none now that the COVID restrictions have been lifted and they have full access again to the first floor, the elevators, the garbage chute, the back door, all of that. And the other thing that happened last month is the Residents Council members, after 6 years, decided it was time to pack it in. So there is no Residents Advisory Council, and we asked them today if they want to form a new one. It's advised, but it's not mandatory. So it's up to them to decide what they want. So what we had talked about in the past is that based on the model we developed, we need approximately $5 million to buy back all of the units. This has been a little bit of a seesaw over the last couple of months in terms of the amount of funding or support that we might be able to get from the bank. And it varies anywhere from about 1.3 million up. So that is unknown at the moment. It's been sort of 2 months and it's still unknown. So we can't really provide you any more information on that. So as we say, we have 3 options: do nothing, use the bank line of credit and loan facility, or perhaps some kind of a potential levy option. But whatever we do, whatever we do, what we have developed is basically a rental property concept. At the moment, the 2023 budget for Life Lease is about $890 per unit per month for the maintenance fees. Based on the 5 units that we have, well, I have 4 units rented right now, one's about to be rented. They're in between $1,700 and $2,000 a square foot, depending on 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, their size, etc. So it's approximately $1,000 surplus per month, which we are estimating to be $975 for purposes of modeling. And with that kind of surplus, depending on the bank arrangement, which is up in the air, we can buy anywhere from 5 or 6 units back up to almost all of them if it was a line of credit only. So that, as I said, that's still under negotiation with the bank. Now, there's no guarantee that there won't be some financial support requested from you, but it's highly unlikely because we are structuring this to be self-funding. And if there is any request, then we would use the current levy calculation. And I know Michelle had asked a while ago how that is calculated, and it's based on the financial information return that every municipality has to provide to municipal affairs, which you can see here on the screen. And Whitestone's share is 6.18%. And as you can see, how it varies from there. Anyway, I will stop sharing the screen in the interest of time and turn it back to Whitestone Council. Thank you.
Do we have any questions?
Thank you very much for the presentation, Dawn. I'll open the floor to councilors who have questions that they want to ask. Councillor Lamb?
Test. Thank you, Don and Art and Paul for being with us tonight. You know, I go back a little way when I think it was you, Don, that came to us at council some years ago about what a great deal this was going to be for us. We were going to have a campus of care. We were not going to be able to, or we wouldn't have to pay our $72,000 a year or whatever we pay. And I never remember any discussion about life lease people. So that's how government works, right? There's not enough time for me to ask all the questions that I want to ask tonight because I'll be taking away from other parts of the agenda. So my observation over the last 6 or 8 months, or maybe longer than that, is, and maybe I'm wrong, but you guys are all over the place. You know, one time you're going to do this, and then you're going to do that, and then you're going to give them 2.5%, then you're not going to give them 2.5%, and you're going to say you get, sign this lease for 60 days out. We can get you out of here. You've been all over the place, and even the line of credit stuff. Well, we need 5 million. Well, maybe we don't need 5 million. Maybe we'll assess you. It's all over the place. And all I want is clarity. There's 2 things I want. I want fairness to the life lease people, because you, and I guess by inference, the municipalities have changed the game, right? They didn't choose to sell. And by the way, when you say it's not a real estate investment, it may not be a real estate investment, but try to tell the people that their investment wasn't somewhat an investment, right? You didn't say we'll go down to 0 or whatever. So I'm concerned. I've got calls. I don't know whether I'm sure you have. Anyway, I'll try to keep my questions, I guess, as brief as I can, but I don't want to anyway. What's the status of the campus of care? What is the status right now? Because all this is hedging on we're going to get approval from the provincial government. What happens if you don't? You're stuck with an old building that you haven't been putting any capital into, my guess is. And what's your backup plan? Or do you have one?
Don, do you want to answer that, or do you want me to?
The ministry understands that we have the right to give the beds back. I mean, you're right. The problem that they've been having is with COVID, they've had to change their priorities. So we weren't on their priority list. And part of the frustration that you're having is we're having, it's almost 2 years. And we haven't heard any official word back from the ministry regarding the bylaws that you passed. So we're in the same boat that you're in terms of waiting to hear what they're doing. And so there is a transitional process perhaps where Lakeland and the health center would take over the management of the 21 Belvedere site. That's an option, and that's being explored. And so unfortunately, as you say, things are all over the map. Well, there are no right answers yet, in terms of what's happening. So it's just really unfortunate that we're just still waiting for government to decide how they're going to handle this. And, we're at their mercy, really.
But the life lease people are left then, Don, in limbo, right?
Well, not really, sir, because I mean, they're not out of pocket. They're not out of home. I mean, the people who had to sell, we bought those units, right? I mean, some of them were sort of in distress. As we said, we have 2 people on the wait list right now. Now they want Bayview, they don't want the back view, but that we're essentially back to the way things were. And I mean,
So they're going to get sort of market value. Is that what you're saying?
Well, market value for.
Well, just hold on, Don. You said they're back to where they were. That's what I want to challenge you on. Are they back?
My apologies.
Are they getting market value? I understand how it used to work. Is that what they're getting? So can I assure all the people who are sitting in front of me here that they're going to now get, market value minus the 10% or whatever you take, and we're back to where it was 3 or 4 years ago? Can you say that? Because that's what you just said.
Can I just respond to that?
Yeah,
We got to
please.
understand. We got to understand that market value for a life lease unit is not a real estate market value. That's clear, and it's proven around the province, regardless of where the life lease exists. It's a very different set of circumstances. So the market value that they get as a life lease owner is very different. It's a rental. It's not a real estate transaction. And
But why can't you then keep them whole to what was happening 4 years ago?
we are.
I realize. Why don't you say we're going to do the exact same process? I'm a fair market value sort of person. I know it's not the same, but in the past, when they sold a unit, there was a formula or an appraisal and a bunch of stuff that happened. Why don't you just do that? Why are we trying to I want the life lease people to feel comfortable. And I don't think they are. I don't know how, are they comfortable? Do you feel any acrimony between you, the board, and the life lease people?
Not anymore.
No.
Oh, okay.
But we've had 2 meetings recently. They've both been very positive, and I've met with them outside of that. We had a presentation from our local MP, and many of the members were there, and all very cordial. And I don't believe there's any current issues.
And you think the board of directors just, or the board of representation just quit because it was time? Or did they quit because they weren't happy with what was happening?
I believe there were some internal issues within their own organization.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
and they were
so
starting to feel
Let me just
tired.
go on. I hate to take you through this. Again, my concern is, I think, well, where'd the 2.2% go that was supposed to be every year you're in for 2.2%? When did that change?
It hasn't. The buyback option.
Found the other.
I mean, if we buy them back, we're using that policy that the Board of Management approved. Right, and which is that 2.2% option. If they choose to go to the open market, we still have a responsibility to help them set the price, and if necessary, and get adjudication from real estate. But so there's more than one option for them. And prior to all of this happening, we actually had a unit that was on the market for 18 months because no one was willing to pay what the owner wanted for the life lease units. And we asked, and of course, the price reduction after 6 months happened several times before it actually sold. So they actually sold for $50,000 less than they were asking. So that was the market quote value for a life lease unit, which is quite different than a condo unit. So that's the point we're making, is that what are people willing to pay for a life lease unit? That's the issue on the open market.
That's right. And the caveat is in which you have greatly diminished their value, right? By what we're doing, not you, us as a municipality. But anyway, I know I'm not going to go on and on and on.
That's not true, sir. They have not diminished in value. And to be honest with you, when we showed the graph, there was no trend. It was all over the map in terms of what people paid for it. They're basically still paying. We're paying the same range in the $240 to $250 range. That value has not been diminished because of anything that's happened over the last 2 years.
Okay, let me go on the flip side of this because I could keep asking questions, but you know what my concern is. My concern is that we should treat them fairly. And I think you've got to, really think hard of whether you're treating them fairly or not. And only I guess you can make that decision. What I've heard, I'm not 100% sure you have, because we've created a market where it's very hard, I would say, to sell, and it's diminished value. But anyway, now I'm going to flip over to the municipalities part, because it started off $5 million that you wanted to borrow. We never heard any of this, by the way, when you came out a few years ago, but our share of that would be what? How much is 6%? $300,000?
Yeah.
So have any of the municipalities signed up to this agreement for borrowing $5 million or whatever you're borrowing? Have any said, yeah, go ahead, do it?
Well, Seawin has basically approved in principle. They're waiting for others. But remember where I
What do you
would
mean you're
challenge,
waiting
when
for
I came
others?
out to talk to you 2 years ago, I mentioned the $5 to $10 million issue for life lease. And the whole idea is we would get that paid for when we sold the land. And so that.
So do we get that money back?
Yes, you get the money back from.
So if we get
when
$10
sold the
million,
land.
excuse me, if we get $10 million for the property, can I assume that Whitestone will get 6% of that $10 million back in our coffers?
Well, no, if we have, yes, if we bought back the life lease units, no,
Pardon?
no, if not, right? In other words, if we have a bank line of credit for $5 million, we have to relieve that line of credit. And if there's some money left over, would it come back to you? The answer is yes, just like you've already received.
So
part
let
of
me
the
rephrase that a
$700,000
bit
return
so
2
you
years ago.
understand. If once this is all done and all the life lease people are happy, hopefully they will be, and we shut it down and go to a campus of care, and you sell the land, which I think has got a pretty nice view, for $10 million. So there you go. Now someone, I guess the Board of Management, has $10 million in their coffers. Does that mean you are going to take and divvy that $10 million up to all the municipalities who have supported it for years and years? Because we own it, right? Is that what's going to happen? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that is very interesting. Okay.
But
Minus
remember
any-
that
minus
it'll
any
never
debt.
be 10 million.
Oh, boy, I want that one recorded.
Yeah, it'll never be 10 million because we still have to pay out the life lease, right? We're not going to have $10 million in profit. We still have the 5 million, at least the $5 million issue in terms of buying back those life lease units.
So the monies that this property is sold for are not going into the campus of care. All the monies associated with this, once you pay everything off, is coming back to the municipalities.
Unless municipalities agree to support the campus of care.
But that would be an individual decision, right?
Yeah, so, so collectively, because that's certainly, as you know, one of the things we talked about was the phase 2 was the virtual long-term care model, investing in services in Whitestone, for example, so people could stay in their homes supported by the campus of care. And
That's
that was
another
going to
question.
be-
Where did you come up with that one, that we in Whitestone have to find a place for the people that no longer are in the life leases, that we somehow have to find them a home? Where'd that come from?
What, no, I'm sorry, what, no, what I just said, you mean? No, people stay in their own homes.
No. I think I read in the presentation that there's some onus or responsibility in the municipalities for the people that no longer can live in the life leases, that you, being Whitestone, have to find a place for them to live. I thought I saw that in your presentation.
That's correct. I mean, you know.
Well, where did
essentially,
you get that? Like,
the
how can
the
you just
concept is
dictate
you own
to
the
us that
life
we have
lease.
to do that?
Well,
Sorry.
you don't have to.
Councillor
if
Lamb,
it
you
doesn't
gotta give
move.
him an opportunity to answer, and listen, we need to have an opportunity for others to
Yeah.
ask their.
Believe me, this is very important. I've been waiting 4 months for this to occur, Mr. Mayor, and I still have the floor. Thank you. So please answer my question.
If the life lease unit, we can't kick people out on the street, right? That's, so if there's still life lease units around, we have to find a new accommodation for that. We collectively, and then essentially municipalities own this, not the Board of Management. We're sort of managing this, but we don't own it. You do. As you said, you're 6.2% or whatever, that's you. And so that, we built it initially, you built it initially. If it has to be built again, you're going to have to, we'll have to do something about building it again, or some other rental option, whatever options. There's more than one option, but we don't need to go there until it's a done deal, which is a long way off, probably. But that's part of that potentially $5 to $10 million liability that we were talking about in terms of finding some kind of alternative. And we may not have to, but it is a possibility.
If I can just add, we've been working really hard at this, and it's not a perfect world, and our work was interrupted by the pandemic, which threw a whole bunch of curveballs at us, like all of you, and the province has seen the impact from that in terms of what they were planning to do as well. There's some horror stories out there when it comes to long-term care and other kinds of businesses that they're involved in. We've been working really diligently to make this the best possible scenario for the life lease people as well as our long-term care people. And in our recent meetings with the life lease folks, as recently as today, and I was at the last one, they seemed quite content with the direction we're going. We know that nothing is going to happen in the short term. The province hasn't indicated that they're prepared to move on anything at this point. So we've got time on our side, and we have committed as a board to ensuring that the life lease people will be treated fairly, and we will do everything in our power to help them find their next places to live if we should have to shut this one down. And we've already got people out there working with us to see that this happens. We don't have all the answers yet. It's a long way off. Like I said, the pandemic threw a curveball at us, and just to look at some of our private long-term care operators and the struggles that they're going through right now because of what this did to them. So, we're asking for the municipalities to be patient and work with us. We believe we'll have a very positive solution in the long term, but if we don't take our time and we try to ram things in the wrong way, it's not going to work. So we're trying to be as careful as we can and be cautiously proceed, treating these life lease people fairly, and we have. Nobody that's been bought out has complained. And the other thing that we have to keep in mind is when we sell these units, when we buy them, I should say, they go for rentals. So we develop a rental stream of income, which goes against the debt. So it's a good story. It's a good news story. On top of the sale of the buildings, we also have a rental income. So while we own those buildings, so it's not a bad deal. And the life lease people, which Don met with today, they're as content as you would expect at this given time, given what we've all been through.
Okay, thank you. I want to give other councillors an opportunity to ask questions. Councillor Bray.
Yes, thank you. I was glad to hear that you have been meeting with the residents of the life lease, and that you have had several meetings with them in the last little while, because I think some of the mix-up that happened earlier on was because there wasn't always good communication coming forward through the press or through through them as well, that everything was understood. So I do hope that you're correct in that you have got things sort of worked out and you're able to see your way through to making sure that the life lease people are treated really fairly in what they've done. I guess my question has to do with your, you had mentioned that they had just seen the audited financial statements. Are they available online?
No, not yet. Did you want them, Counselor?
Yes, I would like to see them. Thank you. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, because I think historically, basically there are 3 sets of audited financial statements: Belvedere Heights, the Residents Trust Fund, and Life Lease. And my understanding is those are made available to municipalities every year, but we'll make sure that happens, Counselor.
Wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate that. I had one other question is that you will be continuing to meet with the residents in the future to keep them updated as to what's happening, I presume?
Correct. We've said that we would meet, well, they can ask us anytime, and that we said we would meet at least 3, probably 4 times a year. And definitely for the budget and the audited financial statements, which we've done the last 2 meetings. And then, and we're probably going to meet with them in the fall to give an update on potentially what's happening with the Campus of Care discussions that we're hoping to have over the summer. So we tentatively sort of talked about that if today at today's meeting, that we would reconvene in the fall to give them an update.
And if I could add, if they want a special meeting, we're more than happy to meet with them.
Wonderful. That's great.
Yeah.
I forgot my last question. I should have written it down. Oh, I'll have to say I'm done. I can't remember.
Councillor Woods, did you have any questions or comments?
No real questions, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank the group for the presentation, but I'm interested in hearing what the people sitting in the crowd here tonight have to say about this.
Councillor Nash, did you have any questions or comments you wanted to make?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I just wanted to thank everybody for the presentation they've done tonight and the other one that we'd heard a month or 2 ago back. And I was able to hear all the questions from the other councillors perfectly. So perfect. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
y-
sorry, excuse me, I did remember.
Okay, go ahead,
May I-
Councillor Bright.
Yes, please. Sorry, I was just wondering what the time frame you think now will be in terms of knowing that the ministry isn't back to you yet and you're still going to be waiting for a while. What do you anticipate? 10 years, 5 years, 7, like what's the range?
Probably more than 5, right? Paul, what do you think?
It's certain, Councillor Bray, through COVID, obviously the province had to make a number of changes to long-term care. And their priority is become retrofitting, I think, existing beds to ensure that they're super bug proof and have the latest and greatest technology so as to prevent the casualties that we've seen during COVID. We all know that there's only so many drops in the bucket, so I'm not sure, but I'm certain that an 8 to 10 year time frame would probably be hopeful, optimistic.
Yeah, that's right. The irony of it is we did such a great job with COVID in keeping the residents safe compared to by the province. So it doesn't put us high on the priority list compared to the private homes that were in big trouble, which is their focus right now. And there's was it about 9 private homes that are closing?
Yes, something like
Right.
that.
And
yeah.
so they're desperately scrambling to replace those beds because they don't want to lose long-term care bed capacity in the province while they're trying to build 30,000 new beds as well. So that's really put a delay in our situation. So because historically we were high on the priority list because we're so short bed in West Prairie Sound, but that was like as Art had mentioned, COVID just upset the whole apple cart in terms of our priority on the ministry's list, and particularly since we did such a great job with COVID. So good news and bad news, right?
we're working really hard with the Westbury Sound Health Center, who's part of our management team now, to develop a strategy to go forward to the province with, to hopefully get some answers. We know that nothing's going to happen quickly, but what we want are some answers. Just are we in the plan for future campus of care? That's what we want to know.
Yeah, as an order and council member, I have, my contact is one of the senior advisors to the minister. So I certainly have had lots of conversations with her regarding that. Look, can you help us move this yardstick? So that's one you know, who knows, but it's another avenue trying to get their attention. But there's a lot of people in the queue.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to have to duck out and go to the other room here in a second. Before I leave, I just wanted to say that what's being brought before you has been the position of the Board of Management at Belvedere, not any one individual. Our goal here, I think, is solely to create more long-term care beds in the community. We have a lengthy waiting list now. The baby boomer bubble is upon us, and the local population is expanding. So the idea that we'll need less beds in 3 to 5 years as compared to today is again pretty optimistic in my mind. In moving this ahead, we are doing everything we can to be fair to Life Lease, to the staff at Belvedere, and to our municipal partners. I guess the easy thing to do 6 or 8 months, 2 years ago would have been to sit on this and say nothing, because we really have still no confirmation, and bring it forward once that confirmation is received. We believe that in the sake of transparency and honesty, that was unfair, especially to the Life Lease occupants, because change is hard for any of us. Change is even harder as I get older. So we thought in fairness that we had to keep them abreast of the situation. And, like, the meetings are more positive, but I know in my heart that, when we go over there and we can't confirm exactly what's going to happen and when, it is in some ways like picking a scab. It's down to a dull roar, but certainly there's still there are lots of concerns. We get that, but to not keep them up to speed with where we are seems unfair in the long term. So it's something that we have to live with and continue to move forward with. And in my mind, acquiring Life Lease units as they become available over the next several years will make this transition a much smoother thing to manage when it does come to fruition, rather than trying to it's always going to be contentious, not just today. It doesn't matter if this happens next week, next month, or 10 years from now. It's always going to be contentious. We're halfway down this trail, and it'd be my position that we continue towards acquiring these units as they become available. And with that, I'm going to take my leave and go next door and earn the big money that I'm paid over there.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Borneman, and
Take care.
you're excused to your next. He's got to go to a Parry Sound Council meeting now, I believe.
Yes.
All right, so I'm conscious of the time. And this isn't a public meeting. Does council wish me to entertain questions for, say, 10 minutes or so from the audience here, or do you want to do that? All right, so we can certainly do that. I don't know if there's anyone in the group who wants to act as a not a spokesperson. The purpose of presentations and delegations, as I'm sure you know, is to provide information for council and to give councilors an opportunity to ask questions. If you have questions that you would like to ask the presenters, you can do that. They should be questions. Any remarks that are defamatory or anything, I will rule that person out of order. So I would ask you to state your name before, so everybody who's on Zoom can understand who it is that's speaking. And you would need to go to the microphone, which, well, this one here, you can take this one, or if you don't mind, Councillor Woods. Yeah, this one, and I'm not using that one, so. That way everybody would be able to hear your question. So Ed, you want to go first?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, first of all, Mr. Mayor, one thing, the residents of the Life Leases have hired me, have retained me to act for them on their behalf.
Can you move the boom up just a little bit? Or
Do it?
yeah,
That better?
yeah, I think so.
Okay, I just like to say,
Sir, please state your name for the record.
I'm sorry, my name is Ed Can, and I'm a resident of Whitestone. I just want to advise everybody that the residents have decided to retain me to represent them in the situation which is continuing with Belvedere Heights. I would like to introduce the people who are here tonight. First of all, we have Ralph and Linda, and they are original purchase. They purchased their unit back in 2008. Next to them is Pauline Hine, who was previously worked for Belvedere Heights and was involved in selling these properties back in 2008. She subsequently bought a unit, and she represented. She was one of the representatives on the residents committee. In the back, we have Bev Forbes, and if I may say so, she is Beth's mother. Okay, and next is Yvonne. Okay. They have a wealth of knowledge about what's gone on here. And I'm going to try and be polite tonight. They are astonished by what's been said. They're shaking their heads. They cannot believe what has been said, which is totally misrepresenting the situation. This problem arose back in 2011 when the Belvedere Heights people decided to announce that Belvedere was to be sold and pulled down. At that point in time, they breached the contract. Every one of these people, all 24 people have a contract, and Belvedere Heights broke it. They had, and when Lynn Gregory told them they had to sign this new lease, they went and got a lawyer. And the lawyer said quite clearly that Belvedere Heights have broken the lease, broken the contract, and there should be compensation to each of the people who were there.
Okay, Ed, could you excuse me? Could you get to a question, please? I mean, this is not a. If folks have issues with the Belvedere board itself, you need to take them up with the Belvedere board. We are not in a position.
I'm getting to that, Mr. Mayor. Please just give me a minute.
Well, okay, but you need to get to the question quickly, or
Okay.
we'll run out of time here.
I would like to know why, when these people made a presentation, hired a lawyer on 2 occasions, and made a presentation to the board, that the board refused to answer any of their questions. None of them. And they did that again today in this meeting.
Okay, that's a question. Is there a response from?
Well, I would like
yes.
to arrange a meeting with with Mr. Carmichael and Mr. Coles, as I'm now the legal representative, and we need to have this out. Because this is going nowhere fast. And these people have to be protected. They're in their 70s, they're 80, they're 90s, and they're being treated like chaff on the floor.
Yeah. They do.
Well, my question is, I would like to have a meeting set up and I'll make sure. Okay, will you please set up a meeting so that I can be present with some of the representatives to present the situation as they see it and deal with it accordingly? Thank you.
We'd be happy to set up a meeting.
Art, do you want to answer that question?
Yeah, I just said, we would be happy to set up a meeting to respond to the concerns. I'm somewhat flabbergasted what I hear because that's nothing like what I'm hearing. So, but like I said, we'd be happy to set up a meeting with our board. It will be with our board and you can come and make a presentation.
Okay, would any of you like to say something?
Ralph Pine here. The problem is, when we first moved in, we had no problem. I think there's been 21 units being sold before they come up with this idea of doing what they're kind of do. We had no problem. The units were going like that. There was a waiting list. If people wanted to sell, there was a waiting list. And it was up to them to ask what they got. Either they got their money or they didn't get their money. Now what's happening, he's come up and he starts buying the places. No one's going to buy a place from us now. No one's going to come and buy a place because they know what's going to happen in 5 to 10 years because they came out way too quick to say what they're going to now 10 years from now. Christ, I could be on the other side of that Belvedere. I mean, we got people that had a meeting today. Some of those people don't know what. They just sit there and listen. That's the problem. I mentioned a majority of our people are well over in their 80s. What are they going to say? They just listen to him. Okay, and that's the problem I find. Now, if I want to sell my place, he says I got 60 days to see if somebody's going to buy it. No one's going to buy my place because they know that eventually down the road, it's going to be whatever he's saying, Carmichael's saying. Now, I didn't sign that. They came up with a fancy form for us to sign up. Now, half of us didn't sign the damn form because we knew what they're trying to do. They changed all the rules and everything. I don't know if you've ever seen that. Ed's probably got the original one they try to put down our throats. And I don't know this other woman. What was her name that said, listen, you're going to sell and that's it. You're out of here in a year. What was her name? Yeah, what a mouthpiece. So that's my problem. I mean, we're happy where we are. By all means,
honestly,
we don't know.
Sure.
I mean,
George,
our
we don't
view
have
is
to sit here and listen
you
to
take
this.
the other places over there that are, what are they, white, sober birch. Our places are good as sober birch, and they're getting $400,000 for some of their places.
They own theirs. There's a big difference.
Oh, I could listen to you. You're
it's
pile of
true.
crap.
It's
That's
true.
it for me.
Okay, sorry, that's.
You want to talk about it? Come and meet with us. This isn't the place.
All right, are there any other questions people have that they'd like to answer? Like to ask? Okay. All right, well, thank you very much. And thank you folks for coming.
I have one final.
Dawn and Art, is the campus of care set for where the hospital is, those grounds, or is it still up in the air? Or is that where it's going to be, or could it be somewhere else?
The plan is that it would be on the grounds of the hospital. The hospital owns 32 acres and it would be on the property that the hospital owns. It's all for reasons of economies because of the infrastructure possibilities and shared services and all of those things.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, the other thing we were talking about is near and dear to Art's heart is the North Seguin Village, which is adjacent to the parking lot, could also be part of an extended campus of care in terms of, so that's really exciting opportunity now that the MZO has been approved. And the other thing I would say, and Ralph wasn't at the meeting today, but we have 2 people on the wait list ready to buy a unit. So units can be sold if a unit came available with a Bayview. 2 people are waiting to buy one. So we've turned the corner on that particular issue at the moment.
Once again, thanks you, everybody. I think we'll move on to the rest of our agenda.
Thanks for the opportunity to be here.
All right. So, do we need a resolution to proceed that or not?
I would say, yes.
All right, this coming back out of the delegation, could we have a motion that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone receives for information the presentation from the Belvedere Heights Board of Management regarding life lease matters? Would someone like to move that? Moved by Councillor Lamb, seconded by Councillor Woods. I guess we'll call the vote to Madam.
Thank you. Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
thank you. Councillor Woods
Yes.
and Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
That motion carries.
So next in our normal order of business would have been planning items, for which we would go into committee of the whole, but I do not see our planner, John Jackson, on the call yet. So what I'm going to propose then is that we put that the planning items in abeyance and move to this would be item 6. And item 6 is a public meeting for the purpose of dealing with our proposed 2023 operating and capital budgets. So I guess the first thing we need to do is to get a motion to adjourn to a public meeting for consideration of this item. It's moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Lamb. Can we call the roll, please, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
That motion carries.
All right, thank you. And I have the time at 7:31 p.m. Just by way of general instructions for those of you, it is a public meeting and the public does have an opportunity to ask questions. If you do, I would simply ask that if you're in the room here, that you go to the microphone and state your name so that everybody who is on Zoom can hear you. And if you're on Zoom, you'll have to unmute your microphone, and then when I recognize you, you can put up your hand to speak, or otherwise get my attention. And when I recognize you, would you also please state your name before you speak? So do we have any introductory remarks from our treasurer or CAO? Treasurer, maybe Manish? He has a report in the package. I'll get him to introduce it for you. It starts, by the way, on page 75 of your handout, if you're looking at the handout. Go ahead, Treasurer.
Through you, Mayor. This budget presentation meeting, there is no much changes from previous meeting. It is with a few numbers I have put for what are the levies changes over year budget on the OPP and DSAP, Belvedere. It's all from compared to previous year to this year. So most of them are numbers already presented on the previous meetings. So this budget is in a surplus of 10,940. It is a deficit budget, and this budget deficit will be carried from the previous year surplus. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions from councilors on the package? Councillor Lamb.
Thank you, Manish, for all your hard work on this over the last, you ever think it takes so long to make a budget? Anyway, we're into June, so anyway, I think it's a good budget. Again, if you take into account the education taxes, it's less than 5%, which in today's world need to put 5,000 more in to fix these damn doggone microphones. But anyway, so yeah, thank you. It's very good. I only have just a comment. When we go to communicate this to the public in our newsletter or whatever on our website, again, I would request that we have a pie chart that shows us, you know, our revenues and our expenses and what categories, and that we communicate it of what we've done in terms of our capital projects. Because basically what we've done in this budget is we pushed off some capital projects. We are going to do the bunny trail, which I think was about 188,000. But more importantly, we made a conscious decision really not to borrow this year at 6 and 7%, which I think is a good decision. I guess only time will tell what the interest rates are a year from now. So anyway, I only have one quick question, and it's on page 76 of 187. And it's in revenues, and I'm sure there's a quick answer to it, but you know, it says general taxation, federal grants, reserves, donations, and then there's a big category of 11%, $682,077 that says other. So what other revenue is in that 682,000? You know, just generally, you don't have to get into every detail of it, but
Yeah, for those of you on Zoom, our treasurer is just looking at his computer and preparing for an answer to Councillor Lamb's question. I know someone typed in that the audio was out. It's just we're just on pause for a minute while the treasurer prepares his answer.
Can I get back to you in a few moments, please? Thank you.
Sure, carry on and we'll see if there are other questions.
If I may, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure if any other counselors have their hand up or not, but
No, they don't. So go ahead, please, Councillor Nash.
perfect, thank you. So I guess just a bit of background, just a couple questions to start off with. When I've looked through everything, I think Councillor Lamb had mentioned it, that we really tried to do a hard job in trying to make it that we didn't have to borrow this year because of the 6.5% interest rates. But I do know that there is one loan that we're taking out. And if I am correct, it's for $188,000. But it is for a loan for works that was done in 2022, if I'm correct. So it's 2022, however, it was never done back in 2022, so it's just being done now, if I understand correct. And I'm just wondering how many years that's going to be amortized if we've decided on that. I know we'd asked to see what we can do to get it to as short of a term, I believe, as we could. So I'm just wondering where that sits right now. I know it's 6.5%, but wondering how many years that is.
Through you, Mayor. As per my previous council meeting, I already mentioned that we are reviewing our Q3 financial conditions. Then we decide for loan. As per my best knowledge right now, we are not doing any loan for this financial year. On the Q3, we will get to know if it is do we have to do the loan or not for 188,000. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Manish. So that's the loan that might have been proposed for 2022. You're saying we might not have to do it, and we'll know in Q3. Is that correct?
Yeah, in Q3 we may know we may going to do the loan or not. Most probably or not, but we have to wait for a financial commission during the Q3.
Perfect.
That way we know that point of time.
All right, and I have two other questions. So one of them is regards to, I know that I think it was at the last council meeting, the swim program was canceled. And I know we had a budget of $4,000 in it. And I might propose that we just reallocate that $4,000 over to line item 16-399, which is the boat launch line item. I think if we were to take that $4,000 from the pool program, which was line item 16-790-4, and move it over to the boat launches, that would, in my eyes, allow for quite a bit of additional work to be done. I know that a load of 12 tons of gravel or so is about $240, I know, based on staff. So that would give us about 16 loads of gravel to spread over, the remaining 7 boat launches are there. So I don't know what other council members might think of that, but just reallocating the pool money, the swim program money over to the boat launch line item. That would be a request that I don't know if we can do, but I'd like to see done. And then my last comment really is just overall, I think we as a municipality, we just need to really take a really hard look at how much money we are putting into our reserve funds. I know that I brought it up over a couple of the meetings, and we had an asset management study done back in 2021, and it notes that the optimal investment that we should be putting into the reserves a year is $637,000. However, this year, we as a municipality are only putting in $398,000, while at the same time withdrawing $560,000 from it. So I think we really have to take a big look at that in budgets going forward to really try and find a way to put the asset reserve money away that we need to, so that we don't get into bigger problems down the road or in councils to come. So that's something I think we really have to look at, and at the same time just know that interest rates are at 6.5%. So anyways, those are my questions. Again, if there's any other councillors that may agree that maybe we could move the one line item from the swim program to the boat launches. I'd really like to see that happen if possible. So thank you.
Through you, Mayor.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I have an answer for Councillor Lamb's questions.
Go ahead, please.
So if you see the revenue totals on Schedule A, revenue total. Schedule A. Page 80 of 187. Correct. The total revenue will be 7,143,011. On the bottom. Bottom of page 82. Yeah. We have to deduct a school board deduction out of that, 979,263.24. Then we are coming up with a total of 6,163,748. That is a net revenue. On that, if you go to same page, the taxation revenue on the page 82, sorry, page 80. The first line, 14,110, taxation revenue, 3.31137. That is the first. We have to deduct that on the summary. Then after all the grants, that will be 1.567. Then the reserve transfer will be 563,564. And the donation amount will be 31,000. The rest of the thing on the revenue reserve, on the revenue portion, which is not captured, that is other revenue of $682,077.
Not sure I follow that, but I'll press.
This is a part of the revenue that is considered as a other revenue. Like there is a sale of asset and everything is a combination and inside it's combined together.
Okay, I apologize, I don't understand, but I'll press it. It's 11% of our revenue. My question is, what is it?
Yeah.
Whatever. Where are we getting revenue? Other source, like what are the, is there a big?
It is. No, it is a part of the revenue, the which I say in the page 82. That is a total revenues we are showing 7,143,011. Out of that, we have to pay a school board. That should be not our revenue. That's not a, then we are considering a net revenue. That is a 6,163,748. Yeah.
Our CAO, I think, has a comment.
Yeah, if I can help a bit, I think what Manish is trying to say is that there's miscellaneous revenue. And if you look at the revenue list, there's, different smaller chunks of revenue, for instance, interest earned on the bank balance, the rent from the CBO, revenue from bag tags, scrap metal. So all of these things were combined together to say that there's miscellaneous revenue. You just didn't list it in your report, but it is listed on page 81, 80, 81, and 82.
Correct.
Thank you. So the details are in on that schedule, Councillor Lamb. And he just took all the miscellaneous smaller chunks of revenue that we receive over the year and
I just
totaled
wondered
them.
whether there was a big chunk of dog tags.
No, dog tags won't take you there.
A lot of dog.
Dog tag also part of that other revenues.
It is, yes. Thank you, Manish.
That's
Thank you.
I'll leave. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there other questions from councillors about the budget?
Well, I think council, I don't know whether it's going to come out or to pass the budget, whether Councillor Nash has brought up a question, so I don't know whether do we deal with it now or maybe we deal with it when we come out of the public. Wouldn't be proper, I think.
Well, I guess he would need to move an amendment, which, I don't know, is that?
Hopefully we don't have to go back to a public meeting to do that.
Well, yeah, I guess we could have some, if there's any discussion that you want to have about that. That this is an okay time for others to weigh in. I mean, I certainly have a response to it, but I don't.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, I think Councillor Lamb's microphone may be off. Oh, it is. Yeah, sorry. Because it squeals when it
Put it on. Hello?
Yeah, there we go. I got you now.
Okay, sorry if I start to squeals. Yeah, if you want my comment on it, I mean, it's only 4,000 in a $6 million budget or whatever. I know as soon as you put a little bit of gravel on boat launches, you get a lot of bang for your buck from the people that use those boat launches, and I have no problem with using it. I guess I would say $4,000 for improvements at boat launches, right? I mean, maybe there's some other thing other than gravel, but you know, gravel's the biggest bang for your buck. So I in theory, I don't have a big problem for that $4,000.
I've modified that. So when you read that resolution, Mr. Mayor, that I've added that in when we come out of the public meeting.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, I could have brought a motion if needed, but I thought it could have just been a talking point, and if people seem to agree, maybe we could do it as I think what might have been said, just as a amendment or something like that. That was all.
Yeah, no, we're in the public meeting, we're simply having discussion. The resolution will come after we go back into regular council meeting at the end of the public meeting. I was just going to say, I mean, philosophically, I don't see what you're suggesting as problematic. I do have some reluctance to open up, you know, I mean, and start having a large amount of editing of the budget, because we've spent a lot of time on this, and we were in a forum when we had an opportunity to work through that. I guess the other thing I would say is that the Recreation Committee, and that is really part of the recreation budget. The Recreation Committee had originally asked for more money than that, and I guess we you know, drew it back a little bit, but and we're probably still going to be all right with what we have in the budget. I just again, I have some concern that we're tweaking it, that we're sort of tweaking it at the 11th hour. But anyway, that's just a comment for now, and we'll see when we get back into when we deal with the resolution of it later. Are there any other comments from councillors or questions from councillors about the budget? So I'm not hearing any. I will provide an opportunity for folks in the audience to ask any questions. Before I do that, I should ask our clerk if any correspondence has been received from the public that we need to enter into the meeting.
None received, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. What was the method by which the notice was provided and the dates? Can you just confirm that, please?
Thank you. It was posted on our website on May 19th. It was in the Almagua newspaper and the Parry Sound North Star, published on May 25th. And a bulletin posted on our just outside the door at the municipal office.
Okay, thank you. So are there any questions or comments from members of the public, either in the room or on Zoom? Go ahead. We need you to take the mic again, Ed. What's that?
Just one very quick comment.
But could you please,
You
if
need
you
to go
don't
to the
mind,
mic.
take the mic just so the people can, the people on Zoom can hear what you're asking. And please state your name. In case they don't remember.
Okay, my name is Ed Can, and I'm a resident of Whitestone. I have a very quick question, and again, I haven't really studied this, but I just have a comment about the reserves. It's estimated in 2023 balance 1.411 with contributions of 398 and withdrawals of 563. It was always my impression that our reserves were not adequate. So I'm concerned that we're making a provision and yet we take out even more than we're providing. There may be a very good answer to it, I don't know, but it just strikes me as strange that.
Okay, thank you for your question. A response from our treasurer.
This is a financial guidance which we got it from our council member. Per the direction, I followed that. And compared to last year, we are only 100,000 lower. If you see the previous year, it's 2021, it is 1.2 million. We had a reserve, but we have right now 1.4 million. So it's a cash flow. If we need it, we have to take it. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? I'm not seeing any hands up on my Zoom screen. So if there is nothing further, then I will ask for a motion that the public meeting be hereby adjourned and the regular meeting reconvened. Moved by Councillor Lamb, seconded by Councillor Bray. I guess we have to call the roll for the vote, please. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor Nash.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
That motion carries.
Okay, and so now we are, thank you, we are back in our regular meeting. And it's 7:57 p.m. Matters arising from the public meeting. Need a mover and seconder that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone. That the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone does hereby receive report FIN 2023-05. Adoption of the proposed 2023 operating and capital / special project budget for information. And that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone does hereby adopt the proposed 2023 operating and capital / special project budget as presented at the May 16th, 2023 council meeting. And that the council of the municipality of Whitestone does hereby request staff to prepare a bylaw to adopt the estimates of all sums required during the year and to adopt the rates of taxation for the year 2023. And our clerk has noted the suggestion of Councillor Nash, which was that the $4,000 allocated to the swim program be reallocated to boat launches account 16-399. Is there someone wish to move that motion? I see Councillor Woods moving. Is there a seconder? Councillor Lamb seconds. Sorry, I'll make a note of that since I have the paper here. Councillor Lamb seconds. Is there any further discussion on this motion?
I just, Mr. Mayor, I remember when we were doing the budget, and I hear what you're saying about the Recreation Committee, but I think I may have my numbers all wrong. I think it was 20 and then it went down to 15. If maybe I've got the numbers right, but I think at that time we said, don't cancel a program because we're going to be at 16 or 16.5 or that kind of stuff, right? So I think you have some flexibility in the recreation budget. And I'm just saying that in response to what you were saying.
Yeah, I had it here a minute ago.
I thought it was 20 and we put it back to 15 at one point, but I might be, my memory's going as I get older.
Page is over, but
Yes, the recreation budget, if I may, Mr. Mayor, is at 15,000.
It was 20 and started at 20.
It
So
started at 20,
But-
yes.
I think all the council agreed, if you need to go over that a bit, go over it, right? Don't tell anyone we spent it at the boat launch. So you're not having a Christmas party or something, right? So, thank you.
okay. Thank you. Is there any further discussion on this resolution? I guess we can then call the I'll give the paper back to the clerk and she can call the roll. Okay.
Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
No.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
All right.
Mr. Jackson is here.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Jackson is online. Mayor Comrie.
All right. Okay. Thank you. That's there he is. All right. Mr. Jackson has now joined our call, so I'm going to go back to the item 5 in the budget, which was the planning items. Sorry, in the budget. We just did the budget, folks. Before we do that, we need to go into committee of the whole to consider 3 planning items. So I will ask for a mover and seconder that we move into committee of the whole. And I have Councillor Bray moving and Councillor Woods seconding. All those in favor, we'll ask for the roll to be called, please.
Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie. Thank you. That motion carries.
All right, thank you. I will now call on Mr. Jackson to introduce these 3 items in order. The first one being 5.1.1, which is a consent application on Hamilton's Bay and Whitestone Lake. John, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. This is an application by the Dennises, who have a property in Hamilton Bay off Creek Trail. They have been interested in selling their property. They had actually been part of the process to understand the possibility of creating a new private road access lot. So this is the culmination of their attentiveness to create a rear lot, which they would like to free up as a possible enhancement of their ability to sell their property. So it falls under the criteria of OPA number 2. Ultimately, I believe that the lands may be of interest to one of the neighboring property owners, but to ensure that sort of flexibility and who might be interested, they are proposing to create this new private road access lot to the rear of their waterfront holding. So they have this hatchet-shaped property at the present time, and it's that straightforward. So I'll be happy to answer any questions, Your Worship.
My apologies, everybody. I keep muting my microphone just to try to avoid feedback. We need to do a little tuning on this before we have another meeting here, but in any case, yeah, and there is one of the recommendations is that there be a rezoning. But in any case, are there questions from members of council about this application? Sounds like not, or is there anyone else who wishes to speak to it? Going once. Okay, thank you. That was quick. Item 5.1.2, another consent application, this time on the Farmer Lake Road.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Jackson.
Thank you, Your Worship. This application for repeat councillors might be familiar. This was a case where the owner, Mr. and Mrs. Cousins, had applied to rezone first, which is normally a condition of a consent, but no reason why it can't happen in reverse. So in fact, all of the planning issues, should there have been any, would have been vetted 2 years ago when they rezoned the property to in fact allow for a new rural residential lot with slightly smaller frontage and area requirements for the land in contrast to a rural zone. So it's actually more of a technical kind of consent to fall in place in the heels of the zoning that was site specifically filed 2 years ago. Thank you.
Okay, once again, questions or comments from council? I just okay, sorry. I was going to ask a question, but I realized the question is based on the historical document, which was at the end, which is the part that we dealt with in 2021. So there's really no this is just a new routine consent. There's no nothing special that needs to be done to adjust for the fact that I think, unless I'm mistaking it, that the lots are now narrower than the standard. Am I not correct?
That's correct, yes. And that matter would have been assessed and reviewed almost 2 years ago to the day.
So we did already agree to that.
Correct.
In fact, okay. All right, if there's nothing else from a member of council, anybody else wish to speak to this?
Yep.
Oh, Councillor Lamb, sorry.
Yeah, John, the
ahead.
first two applications we've talked about. Which ones go to the planning board? Both?
Both.
Both, that's what I thought. How about the third one? It doesn't have to go back, does it?
No, it's been to the planning board. This
Okay,
is just
thank you. So just the first two.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, is there anything else on this item? If not, we can move then to item 5.1.3, which is and it doesn't say this up front, but what this really is a request for council to approve to approve a bylaw or to authorize the 5126. Am I right about that?
Yes, that's correct. And really the only, I suppose, information that is relevant or important for council to understand, this has been quite a while in the process. It actually was approved quite some time ago. When the survey was being prepared, it was discovered that some of the proposed severance lines as originally proposed were going to create some conflicts. So they had to send the biologist or the environmentalist back, and after the clearance, if you like, was given by the environmentalist, then the surveyors have to go back and adjust it. So it was that hang up that was done so that all of those sort of details could be properly reflected in what will ultimately be the agreement for these new lots to be registered on title.
Okay, thank you. Other questions or comments from council?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I might, it's
Councillor Nash, go ahead.
I don't know if the applicant may be on the call tonight or in the meeting. I just wondering if they had any concerns with any of I'm sure it's all been vetted back and forth, just with the consent agreement. I wanted to make sure that they are happy with what's in front of us. I'm not sure if somebody's here and could speak to that or not on the applicant's side.
Through you, Your
Okay,
Worship, I know that Mr. Stiles, one of the partners in the company, has talked both to myself and
Yes.
to Paula Macrae.
He's here in the room, Councillor Nash, and he has a microphone now, so
Okay.
Tim, if you want to.
Yeah, hi Scott, it's Tim Stiles. To answer that question, Paul and I have worked very hard together on this agreement, and I'm content with it.
Perfect. That was my only question. Thank you.
Thank you. This has been a long time coming, hasn't it? How do you like government?
Don't
answer that, Tim. Don't answer that. I'm interested in, and you don't have to tell us this, all the, I know on Tahinka and going down Moki Trail, is it, or whatever, that there's a whole bunch of chunks of land that the municipality owns, that somebody else owns, that someone else, is all that kind of completed, that
It is,
someone
yeah.
can get to the lots?
Yes, it's
Okay.
all done. It was a
Good.
nightmare, but it's over.
Good, excellent. Well, I'm glad for you.
Yeah. Thank you. It was a struggle,
Yeah.
but we
Just
got
keep
through.
those docks out of the way of that little narrow part. when
You
get
got it.
Through there, okay.
You got
You
it.
know what my bugaboos on that, so.
I
Thank you.
understand.
Good luck and.
Thank you.
With your project, so,
Thanks.
okay.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I guess I did have one other question, sorry. I was just looking at my notes, if it might not be too late, if I might be able to ask it.
Go ahead.
Thank you. It was a simple one. It was just, when I was looking through it, I noticed that there's quite a bit of appendices or schedules at the back. I see there's a schedule A, B, C, and D. And when I was reading the agreement, it would look like a lot of the references to C and D, which is one of them's this Fry Corporation report, and the other one is JC Engineering report. But it looks like everything's been written in the agreement itself, like the details of what was said in those reports. And would it be custom that we'd need to have the schedules if the wording's been actually written out in the consent agreement, to have all the extra pages in the I guess it'd be uploaded as a document at the land registry office if they're not needed to be. It's more of a question out loud, that do we need them if in fact the wording, like I'm gonna give an example here. Where was it here? Under Part C access, it notes under 8, for example, it says the owner acknowledges that the private driveway be installed within Part 4 of the reference plan. 42R22-156 is to be constructed as per JC Engineering report of October 16th, as set out below, and then we list the 5 items. If we're listing the 5 items there, I guess that's why I'm wondering, why would we need the JC Engineering report in the schedule, if that makes sense? I think we may be able to eliminate a couple schedules to make the document a little lighter without changing anything. That's all.
My response to that would be that the documents are the things that are definitive, and those were requirements that the applicant had to meet in order to in order to get the original consents that led to this. So and keep in mind that the municipality at the end of the day has to satisfy itself that all of those, and this is not a planning board function, the municipality has to satisfy itself that all of those conditions are met. So I don't know if Mr. Jackson has any comment on why they're repeated, but I think it would be, if those are requirements, if those are where the detailed requirements are, then from a legal point of view, I think they should be attached.
I think through your worship, the protocol usually is to include the sort of short form highlights of the purpose of the term in the agreement, and then reference the actual background report by the professionals, environmentalists, whatever the case may be, and point them to the municipality to actually have a copy of the full reports. That's typically how it's done. So I'm agreeing with you to a certain extent, where if someone's just going to read the agreement, they're going to know what the substance is, but they want to understand the pure technical background. They've got to pull the agreement. They usually go to the municipal office to get that.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments in regards to this item? All right, if not, then I guess we can move back into out of committee of the whole and go back into our regular agenda. Sorry, I've got a bunch of pages here. Let's just, we need a motion to reconvene. All the guys. Ahead of myself here. Committee of the Whole, planning items, reconvene into a regular meeting. That the council of the municipality of Whitestone reconvene into the regular meeting. Who moves? Councillor Lamb moves, seconded by Councillor Woods. All those in favor, please. Well, we'll get a
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
we'll get a vote here.
Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
That motion carries.
Okay, thank you. We are now back into regular meeting at 8:18 PM. Now we have matters arising from the Committee of the Whole, which are the resolutions to approve them, and I will read them and ask for a mover and seconder. Starting with 5.1.1, the Dennis's application. Whereas John Jackson Planner, Inc. has prepared a report dated June 5th, 2023 for the Parry Sound Area Planning Board regarding consent application B09/2023 W. The applicants are Dennis, Richard, and Deborah. And provided a copy to the municipality of Whitestone. Now therefore be it resolved that the council of the municipality of Whitestone receives this report as information. And that the council of the municipality of Whitestone recommends this consent application for approval in principle, subject to the following conditions. There are 5 of them. Condition number 1, that payment of a parkland edification fee be made in accordance with the current municipal fees and charges bylaw. Number 2, that the new lot receive 911 addressing from the municipality. Number 3, that the newly created lot be rezoned to the rural use exception limited service zone. 4, that the applicants enter into a section 5126 consent agreement with the municipality of Whitestone, be registered on title by the applicants to include the recognition of the private access road for the new lot and to indemnify the municipality for any responsibility or liability for access or maintenance of the road. And 5, that payment of all applicable planning fees be paid to the municipality of Whitestone. Who would move that? Councillor Woods, seconded by Councillor Bray. Any further discussion? Thank you. Call the roll, please, Madam
Thank
CEO.
you. Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor Nash.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
So next is item 5.1.2, the Cousins consent application. Excuse me. Whereas John Jackson Planner Incorporated has prepared a report dated June 9th, 2023 for the Parry Sound Area Planning Board regarding consent application B13/2023 Whitestone. The applicants Scott, or the applicant is Scott Cousins, and provided a copy to the municipality of Whitestone. Now therefore be it resolved that the council of the municipality of Whitestone receives this report as information, and that the council of the municipality of Whitestone recommends this consent application for approval in principle, subject to the following conditions.
My apologies. I'm not sure how I did that, but I've fixed it.
Okay, you didn't miss anything. Nobody talked while it was paused. So there are 3 conditions to this consent application. Well, number 1, that payment of a parkland dedication fee be made in accordance with the current municipal fees and charges bylaw. Number 2, that the new lot receive 911 addressing from the municipality. And 3, that payment of all applicable planning fees be paid to the municipality of Whitestone. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Lamb is moving, Councillor Bray is seconding. Any discussion? Okay, can we have a vote, please, Madam Clerk?
Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Okay, and the final item that we had was item 5.1.3, and that is addressed by a bylaw later on in the agenda, so we can now move to item 7, which is our consent agenda. And you'll just give me 1 second to flip a few pages here. The consent agenda consists of the following items. Seven point one, council and committee meetings as follows: the regular council meeting minutes for Tuesday, July 6, 2023. The regular council meeting minutes for the open portion of the closed meeting on Thursday, June 8th, 2023. The Recreation Committee's meeting minutes for April 27th and May 25th, and the Environmental Stewardship Committee meeting minutes for May 16th, 2023. And then there is the unfinished business listed on page 4 of the agenda package. So I'm looking for a mover and seconder for the following. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone does hereby approve the following: the regular council meeting minutes of June 6, 2023, and the regular closed session council meeting minutes of June 8th, 2023. And that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone receive for information: 1, the Recreation Committee meeting minutes for April 27th and May 25th. 2, the Environmental Stewardship Committee meeting minutes for May 16th, and the unfinished business listing contained in the consent agenda of today. But I get a mover and seconder for those items.
I can
Councillor
move
Gray
that.
is moving. Councillor Nash, did you second?
I can second that.
Very good, thank you. Any further discussion on these? Or any
I have-
discussion of any kind, does not have to be further. I haven't had any yet.
I have one question or comment through you, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, please.
In regards to the June 6th council meeting minutes, it's page 115 of 187. I think there's when I read what I under Councillor Nash, when I read it, I think there's a few items that need to be or it asked to be corrected. The second bullet, it says we need clear direction on what signs need to be removed or adjusted accordingly. Example, no camping at boat launch. I think that was maybe a staff note. I don't think I said we need clear direction of what signs need to be removed. So I think that should come out. And the same for the third bullet point. It says legal opinion may be required. Can we enforce our own bylaws on Crown land? I think I'd asked a question, which was, are we able to enforce no camping on our landings based on the Public Lands Act? So I think that just needs some rewording. And then the fourth bullet, it also said, Councillor Nash indicated that in his opinion, if the municipality wants to have clear titles to the land instead of using a land use permit, there should be a Crown land use lease. I don't think that was me. I believe that might have been yourself, Mr. Mayor, that said that comment. So I just asked maybe if staff could take those bullet points out. And then the second to last bullet point, it speaks to, I'll just read the last part of it. It says, in response, Mayor Comrie noted that the fire chief hasn't completed the information for council just yet. And I'd ask and say, I think these were supposed to be my comments and not comments of others. So if they'd like to, if staff could move your comment over to your comments, I think it would be more in keeping with what I was asking the questions. So I'd ask if those items can be updated before those minutes be approved, because I don't think they're reflecting what my comments were. Thank you.
Okay, I don't know if if our CAO clerk wishes to respond to this. I'm gonna make a general comment, I guess, but go ahead.
Yeah, I can do that. We will go back and listen to the audio and just to make, because we get this information generally from the audio. We take brief notes here. And we can revise. I can see we can move the mayor's comment about the fire chief completing information to mayor's comments and reference that it's in response to your comment. I think that's all I can say at this point. We'll just go back and listen to the audio and make adjustments as needed.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, I guess my comment is that this is an unusual level of detail compared to what we normally see. I would point out that the agenda item for councilor items is not intended to be a debate about things. It's intended for councilors to make announcement about things, that are upcoming, that they want to draw to people's attention, or to, I think it should be called councilor announcements more than that. And it might include something where someone says, I want to raise an item at a future meeting about something. But they're not really intended for debate. And that's what these minutes, or these notes in the minute tend to look like. And I think in future, would be my intention to restrict the debate so that we have the debate on items that are on the agenda when they're on the agenda, and not just have sort of a free-for-all and at the end of the meeting. So anyway, that's my comment about this. The reason that you see comments that I made in other places here is that I deliberately do not bring up items in councilor under councilor items unless it's to inform you about something that's going to be happening in the future, or something of that nature. And I guess there could be a heading that says Mayor Comrie, and we could put some of those things under there, but I think that would be taking a step in the wrong direction to do that. So anyway, what are we doing? Are we approving the minutes minus these?
Can I respond to that, please? Sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but these comments and this kind of detail came out of, I think, Councillor Nash asking for more detail on what he had said and what he hadn't, and whatever. And I know when I had said some things, I think the CAO, sort of reflected in the next day or two, is this what you said, and or the items that you brought up? And I said, yes, right. If we need to change this, in my opinion, I think this is maybe we have to change it in our procedural bylaw, but I think this is a really good opportunity for people to bring up some of the items that are mentioned in here, and because they're all important. And, if every time we want to make a comment, on something, we have to, go through put it on the agenda, and well, that's not a motion, that and complicate. I find this quite good, actually. So, having said that, I guess there's some changes. I don't want any changes in mine. Anyway, I personally feel it's okay. So if we have to address this in the procedural bylaw to define what councillor comments can be or not, then I guess that's when we'll have to address it. And we can have the debate at that time, not tonight. Thank you.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I would suggest we not approve the June sixth
Just
minutes, they can come back at the next meeting and we'll
Yeah.
look at what, well, I should say, we'll listen to the audio and we'll make some amendments as necessary.
So we're removing the June sixth meeting minutes from the motion. Are the mover and seconder agreeable to doing that? I need to ask. All
I
right.
would, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
just a question, really. I see the rec committee minutes, and maybe I've missed it in here. I know there's no fireworks on July 1st, and that makes absolute sense. So is it still possible that it could occur on the August long weekend or the September, or is it just gone?
Oh, okay, yeah. good.
Assuming obviously there's not a fire ban on at the time, right?
Very good question. Our fire chief is quite confident that we will continue to be in a fire ban on July 1st. You know, he's nodding his head, kind of. We could hope for the best, but then of course, who wants steady rain all next week, right? I mean, it's just, anyway, we do have the fireworks, and we do have the opportunity of rescheduling those fireworks for another weekend later on in the, and I suppose practically speaking, you're probably talking about, August 1st or Labor Day. That is an option. I think if the rec committee, thought to do that, and because there might be some other things that we would try to do in conjunction with it or not, I don't know. Then we would probably bring it back to council and see what everybody thought about it. If we don't do that, then what happens is they will end up in storage until next year. In fact, if we don't use them, we got a little bit of money from the whatever the ministry is, culture and citizenship, heritage. Thank you. The federal ministry that gave us a little bit of money towards the cost of that. We have to give it back, as it turns out, if we don't actually use the fireworks. But yeah, I think we would consider trying to use them at a subsequent date, but it would not be like it's, if we had a rain date on Saturday, we would move everything to Sunday, but the fireworks are not going to clear over one rain date. So, or the fire ban isn't going to clear. So, and then the other activities that are planned, if there are no fireworks, the other activities that are planned will take place. And there will be a couple of extra things that we will do a little later in the evening. Like after, normally what would happen is there would be there's a cardboard boat race, as we've had before, planned, and that would take place probably around 7 or so. And we have some guests coming from the Friendship Center, so there are some other things that will be happening. But if there are no fireworks, rather than have everything grind to a halt at, say, 8 o'clock or whatever, we might have one more. We have another activity that's planned as a contingency that we won't do if there are fireworks, and if we have a little bit of extra time, maybe folks will stay around until it gets closer to dusk and do some of these other things. So anyway, that's about as much as I can tell you at this stage of the game, but all right. Thank you. Did we didn't take a vote, did we? No. All right.
Calling the question, Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, could I ask for a 5-minute 5-minute adjournment?
Yes, I was wondering if you would like to do that. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
good time. Sure. Let's adjourn for just a couple of minutes.
Okay,
Have a
thank
bio
you.
break here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So if I haven't skipped over everything, we are at item 8 on the agenda, which is accounts payable. And for that, we need a motion that the council of the municipality of Whitestone receive for information the accounts payable listing in the amount of $154,577.10 for the period ending May 18th, 2023, and $491,035.92 for the period ending June 6th, 2023. Who would like to move that? Councillor Lamb is moving, seconded by Councillor Woods. Discussion.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if nobody else has their hands up, I have one.
No, go
question.
ahead, Councillor Nash.
Perfect. It was on page 137. Let me just flick to there as well. And it's line item 1418, so 1418 on page 137. And the line item was cloud permitting system. And it was $5,650. And I was wondering if that's for the fire permitting system, and I thought $5,600 was quite a bit for our online permitting system for the fire. So I just wanted to see if I was correct, and that's what it was for.
Well, no, it's not, but our
Yes.
CEO or treasurer will tell you what it is for.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, it's for, it says BLD official, so that's building department, so that's the cloud permitting system that the building department is utilizing.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That makes much more sense for a cost. Thank you.
I would comment that, however, that the other system that you referred to is still up and running and working. It doesn't cost that much money. But you should have received a couple of notices this week about the fire ban from that system. If you have a permit for outdoor burning. And of course, if you don't have a permit for outdoor burning, I hope you're not doing it even when we're not in a fire ban, because you're still supposed to renew your permit according to our bylaw every year. So anyway, just a side note. Thank you, Councillor Lyons and Councillor Woods are confirming that they received the note. Yeah, I certainly noticed them. And it's our fire chief who triggers those to be sent out. All right, so other questions about payables, are there any? That sounds like not, so maybe we could call the vote to receive this report.
Thank you, Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb.
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
All right, so that brings us to section 9, which is staff reports. And I think there's, am I right in saying there's only one? Okay. CEO is nodding. So we have one here, which is a report that was provided by our fire chief with some attachments and this is in this is in connection with replacement of our existing pumper truck. So I will let's see. Well, maybe we can, maybe we can do this in two parts. Like, I guess, there is also there a lot of, it's just a memo for me with some questions that I had raised with the fire chief, but anyway. Could we get a mover and seconder to receive the report for information and discussion, and then we'll see if council wishes to provide some direction.
I can move that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Nash, seconded by Councillor Bray. All those in favor? Just to read, this is just to receive the report and information and discussion. Then I'm going to ask the fire chief to make whatever comments he wants to introduce it. Well,
We'll split that motion that was the way it was written then. So we'll provide direction through another motion. Is that what I'm
Yeah.
hearing? Okay, very good. Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb.
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
and Mayor Comrie.
yes.
Thank you. The motion carries.
All right, thank you. Over to you, Bob.
So as you see, I submitted an RFP to replace our fire truck. It'll be 25 years in 2025. I sent out 7 RFPs. I only received 1 back. That was a shock to me as well as everybody else. In the memo from the Perks Falls Fire Chief, they had done the same thing and they only ended up getting 1 back, various different reasons. So I guess it's council's decision what they want to do, how we want to move forward, and what we're going to do about this. Mr. Mayor's questions or comments, I don't know if you want me to answer them one at a time or how you want me to do that and go through those, I guess. Or you can ask me questions and I can clarify them for you.
Oh, sorry. Well, if you wish to comment on some of them, please go ahead.
Sure. So the first one, how many times do we go out a year? It depends, but on average, 12 to 15 times a year. Question number 2, what would be better, a smaller pumper? We did look at buying what they call a mini rapid attack pumper. There are some benefits to a smaller truck. There's also a lot of negative things such as water capacity, equipment capacity. And when I went around actually pricing some of them, a mini pumper, brand new, is around $600,000. So we're not saving a ton of money. Is there used ones out there? There's not much for used fire trucks, pumper trucks, or tanker trucks in Ontario. There's a lot in the US. Some of them are older. I have come across some newer ones. They're 300,000 or 400,000 for a 2017, but by the time you pay the exchange, bring them over here, have them certified, pump tested. And I don't think, not that I'm against buying a newer, older truck, but I wouldn't buy something that we didn't at least take for a ride and try out. And unless you're going to send me to the US every time I find a truck to try it out, it's probably not going to happen. So, what would the consequences of mutual aid? So mutual aid is it's an agreement that we have between the fire departments. It's so if Magneto One, because Magneto One's first call to Whitestone, if they get busy, they can call us for assistance, and in turn, we can call them for assistance. If we need more assistance, we can call McKellar. And then again, if we need more, we can call Burks Falls. And then if we need more, we can call McDougal, and so on and so forth. And with mutual aid, it's with the understanding that I help you, you help me. And That's how mutual aid works. It's not, if I don't have a fire truck, will you provide fire protection for me? That would be something that council, our council would have to talk to their council about, and there'd definitely be a cost to that, I'm sure. What about existing pumper? Can the existing pumper be in there? So right now, there's nothing wrong with our pumper. It's certified every year. It's pump tested every year. It passes every year. You know, I'm sure at some point in time it's gonna have an issue, but so could a new one. What might we do with the existing truck? That I'm not sure. And I'm not sure of the value. If you go online, you know, they're running between 20 and or between 16 and 25,000. After 25 years old, there's still this hiccup that I'm trying to get over of whether you can actually use that as a fire truck. If you can, there's some value. If not, it's basically in the cabin chassis, not so much the fire pump. So we would have to look at that at the time of doing it. What about a used truck? Well, I think I already covered that. So again, financial options on tendering. I don't know. That's really not my expertise. That would be Monish's area of expertise on how we were going to finance a fire truck. Yeah, so should we seek external assistance I went online today to see if there was anybody that actually does that, and I couldn't find anybody. But I mean, if that's council's wishes to do that, then I guess that's what council can do. Are there any consequences about delaying the purchase? Like I said, I'm working with the underwriters to determine whether or not the truck can be used after 25 years, and it's really been a struggle working with those guys. The biggest issue we're going to have, and if you read the memo from the Berks Falls Fire Chief, they argue, or they worked on the truck for a year and they only got one bid, and when it was time to buy it, they were almost $100,000 more than what they originally thought it was going to be. And if you look back in my 5-year plan, for the last 15 years, there was a couple of them that I had stated that new replacement fire truck would be between $400,000 and $500,000. And when we got this one back, yeah, I was blown away as well. It's a lot of money. So, you know, that would probably be the really only consequence of holding off. I mean, I don't think the finance rates are ever going to come down. They might. I don't know. That's a question for Manish to answer, but I don't really know. So I guess it's a decision on council, what they want to do and how they want me to proceed and what's the next step, and go on from there. So basically I'm looking for guidance, I guess, whatever you want to call it, and go from there. So I'm not sure if.
Okay, thank you. That's a good introduction. I'll let members of council ask questions that they may have. Or make comments. Councillor Bray.
Well, mine are more comments because I've sort of I am in the fire department as well, as you know. And just so that we make it very clear to the public that this did come up with the integrity commissioner, and I am able to comment and to vote on things with the fire department. That is one of the exceptions in the rules. You know, I know this is a real difficult thing. This is something that I think, you know, unfortunately was not planned for over the 20 years that we've had our pumper. The pumper's a very good one, but, you know, really what we should have been doing is putting that $30,000 a year away, starting way back when we bought the first pumper, that pumper. And so that we would be in a position where we have a significant amount of money to be able to do that. I think that we get ourselves into positions like this where we have something that's fairly expensive, but it's also something that's needed. And I think if you ask the person whose house burns down and whether they appreciate having a pumper pull up that is working and is able to pump water and to be able to be there for the full duration of the fire, which can be 5 to 6 hours and be running the whole time, I think that you would find that the person would be very happy to see it. I know it's a lot of money. I know that it's something that is not sort of a priority sometimes of councils, and which concerns me because we just approved the roads department to have an excavator, and we did it without even it being in the budget. So my concern is that this has been in the budget, the capital budget, for years and been part of it. I feel like we should be moving forward with this and get the truck and then start planning as we should for the next one or the next piece of equipment that is needed to be replaced. We shouldn't be always doing it backwards and always financing and financing and financing. It's just as a means of giving some information that when you pull up to a fire and you have a pumper, the pumper being the size that it is provides a certain amount of water for the fire department to get started fighting that fire. We require then the tanker to come in. We have a porta tank that we can drop behind the tanker, and the tanker can then fill that, and that will keep the pumper going for a certain amount of time. But we always require at least one, lots of times 2 tankers from our mutual aid partners to be able to continue fighting that fire. And then even then it's hard to have enough water. So you're looking at, you know, maybe the place will be, we will not be able to save the place, but we will be able to keep the surrounding areas from catching fire if we are there and we have the water supply and we can fight it. We had one that was in the wee hours of the morning, and the main thing we did was keep the house beside it from burning down, which was like 3 feet away. A pumper is not something that goes out very often and isn't used a lot in that sense. You know, as Bob said, we go out, you know, use it 15 or so times a year. But there was one year we had 5 structure fires in 1 year, 5 of them, and they were big ones, not little ones. They were big ones. So I think that I think we're not going to find, I don't anticipate that we're going to find anything cheaper. I don't know where we're going to be able to find one. It is a large amount of money, but again, we have some of the money in reserves, and then it would be the additional that we would need to be able to finance. And it's not for 2 more years that it will arrive. So that allows us next year to put money into the reserves, as well as have money in the next budget, 2025. I feel that, you know, trying to find other solutions by, you know, trying to see if we can, you know, find a used one. Well, Bob has looked, there aren't a lot of used ones around, and the used ones that are there are the same age as our pumper now, some of them. So we would be trading a vehicle that we know, and we know how it's been kept, with one that hasn't. We don't know what the history is of that vehicle. To be able to look at our mutual aid agreements, we have to be able to provide the same services we ask of them. So if we don't have a pumper, I can't see that any fire department would want to stay in a mutual aid agreement with us because we will not be able to provide the same service when they ask us. The consequences of us not having our own pumper truck, well, then if you're looking for other people to come, it's going to be at least 20 minutes, half an hour before they'll get there. A lot happens in that time in a fire. I think that by the price of it coming out, I know that it was a shock. But again, over 20 years, you can see that a price would certainly be well over 500,000 when it was 300 before. So my recommendation would be for us to go forward and do this and get going with it and then be prepared for things in the future instead of it creeping up. Like the asset management plans should have all of this in it, and we should be working towards those things according to the plan, and not waiting until the last minute and finding out, well, we don't have enough money. Thank you.
Sorry. Okay, thanks. Are there comments from others who haven't spoken?
I would have a comment, Mr. Mayor, if I might.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So I guess, Janice or Councillor Bray, thank you for some of those comments. I echo many of the items that you've said there. When I was reading, I did read the Fire Underwriters Survey or Technical Bulletin. And I guess maybe I'd ask Bob this question, if you can clarify something for me. When I was reading the fire underwriters items, I noticed in one spot it says, if replacement does not occur, fire insurance grading recognition may be revoked for the specific apparatus, which may adversely affect the fire insurance grades for the community. This can also affect the rates of the insurance for property owners throughout the community. If I'm reading that correctly in what I do, what I understand that to say is, if a replacement isn't to occur in the timelines that they set out in their paperwork, our insurance rating on our fire rating could be decreased. And if that rating gets decreased, property owner insurance or other insurances may have higher rates, which might be passed on to some of the residents. That's the way I read that. Is that what you also understood from your discussions you've had with them, Bob?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, that's correct. Now, right now, I have applied to the underwriters to give us the extension till 2025 and not downgrade us. And verbally, they've said they would. They haven't sent me anything in writing yet, as long as we're in the process of looking to replace the truck. I asked the fire underwriters, how does that affect my insurance? And it was like pulling teeth to get them to give me an answer. At the end of the day, basically, it's going to affect everybody differently. If you have 50 claims and you claim your insurance every day, yours may go up more than somebody who only puts a claim in once every 3 or 4 years. And unfortunately, it's really hard working with the underwriters. It's like pulling teeth. They're just not willing to give you that one answer. Like, is it a yes or a no? And they just don't want to say that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but that's my understanding.
Okay, thank you, Bob. And then when I continued to read it, I saw a part, and I think it's just what you'd said, you'd tried to get an extension to year 25. I see that it notes somewhere that if your apparatus exceeds 20 years of age, it may be considered for an extension as long as you get this extension certificate. So I'm guessing that's what you're currently working on, trying to get that certificate that would allow us to go to the year 25, correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so like I said, I've asked and they have said verbally they would. They just haven't sent me the paperwork yet. So yeah, hopefully they won't downgrade us until, 2025. And again, they're willing to work with us, I think, as far as that part goes. But some of the rest of it's pretty rough.
Okay, thanks again, Bob. And then just overall, when I read your report and I read the also the letter from who was it here? Was trying to find from Burke's Falls. And what I gather from the bids the municipality received, we received 2 bids back. Unfortunately, one bid was late, so we couldn't open it, couldn't see it. So we only received 1 bid. And when I read through Burke's Falls, it seems to be eerily familiar in a way that they only had 1 bid. And I know they spoke about some of the equipment upgrades and stuff like that, like shortage of parts, I'll call it. So I guess when I look at this, at first I'd be saying, we really need to make sure we get enough tenders in to make sure we're doing justice in awarding or not awarding based on a number of prices. But when I see the letter from Burke's Falls, I'm rounding about 650,000, and that was something they ordered 2 years ago. And I see the 1 bid we got was for 709,000. I look at that and say that to me would look like we might have actually received a bid that would have been expected. And I'm afraid to think of what might happen if we put it out later and we go to another model year and everything like that. So I think I again echo Councillor Bray's note there, that I think I'd be in support of a new fire truck, awarding it to where it is now. Now, with that said, I couldn't say or couldn't stress more than I did earlier in the meeting today about our reserves. And I know in our budget we transferred $100,000 out of the forest fire fund to put into this fire pumper reserve fund. And I think this year we're only putting $30,000 in for the fire truck replacement that we knew was going to cost hundreds of thousands. So I really think we need to really take a close look at our reserve funding going forward, similar to what Councillor Bray said, so we aren't in these situations. Now, it's great that we have almost $300,000 in reserves now. Would have to find something to come up with another, 400,000 over the next couple of years. Now, the question of what about a used one? I see that, it looks like there is some 10-year-old trucks in the States, it would appear. And from what you said there, by the time you do the exchange and stuff, that might be upwards of $500,000 for a 10-year-old truck. And my gut would tell me it'd be better having a brand new truck that lasts for 25 years, if we can get that extension again. And in your memo, Bob, I see that you'd mentioned, that overall, 700,000 works out to about $35,000 a year, which I think is about a 1% tax, right? If you think of it like that, even though we wouldn't be financing it all. And I think we do also have to look at in the note you'd said here that this year to put dust control down for the one application of calcium chloride we put down was $50-something thousand, and we're talking about an expense that would be on average 35,000 or something a year. So anyways, those are my comments. I know it's a really big purchase, something that we really do have to discuss and think about. And I think there was some really good questions the mayor had asked there that you were able to answer some of them on. Anyways, I'll turn it over to another council member now.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lamb, did you?
Yeah.
weigh in?
Great thing about council is we can agree to disagree on some things. We have a pumper that works. We wouldn't even be thinking of this, I don't think, unless it was this 25-year thing. because it's working and it's operational and all those things. And when, you want me to speak a little more closer? Okay. Sorry, yeah. I'm not trying to diminish the truck, and I've talked to the fire chief on this, so none of what I'm saying is going to be particularly a surprise. I don't know enough about this information. I don't think we do. When we did the excavator, for instance, we put David Creaser through the humps or the grinder for 3 months right before we bought a excavator. This is a big chunk of change. $750,000 is no, well, let's go get it and we'll figure it out kind of, and we should have, could have, whatever. I was on council for many of those years and no one ever came and told me that we should have been putting 40 instead of 30 or anything like that away. So it's expenditures in the future. Well, why don't we just go do everything now because it's going to be up next year or the year after, right? That's no justification in my mind to go spend this. And again, I don't have enough information. I look here about, and I'm not looking for an answer. There is an area of 26 to 29 years, it's 1,000 people or whatever for, like, I don't know what that all means. And I will never accept, as I don't think Councillor Nash would, one bid on anything else and accept the bid. I mean, I've always heard him and reject that sort of argument. So what am, and I could get into the cost isn't 700, again, it's 6 and 7% that you're borrowing. We can't argue sometimes that it's we're not going to borrow, but yet, a month later, we're going to borrow or commit ourselves to borrowing $400,000 or whatever it is. So I'm concerned that there's only one bidder. I'm concerned, I think there's some slack here. I don't think we've got any answers from what are the ramifications if we don't buy something and we currently or keep using our current pumper? And again, I'm looking for experts to kind of tell us this. So where am I going with all this? And I guess I could go on, but we need help. In my opinion, we need help to delineate out all our options. And there are firms and people, I'm sure our CAO or between their CAO and the mayor could find someone who will quickly in the next 2 months take us through all the options, come back with a report as to what will work and what won't work, why it won't work, and so it's easier for us to make the decision. I will not be saying tonight, just go ahead, let's spend $750,000 because, and again, our fire department is great, right? The pumpers used for other things, but structure fires are sometimes 1, 2, 5, 4, whatever. And I'm sure they're important to people, but we can't always drive all our positions on emotion. Okay. We have to deal with practicalities. When I look at next year, there's a tsunami of costs coming at us in the municipality and between Belvedere Heights tonight and this and some of the projects we put off, there's a lot of big decisions to be made. So anyway, what am I getting at? I think we need help. I don't think it's a 6-month exercise. I think we can identify someone who can work with the fire chief and work with Manish and perhaps Michelle and bring a report that tells us all the various options and what we can do. At minimum, we have to bid differently. I mean, we said, don't worry about the costs. We're not going to pay you anything or whatever until the truck. I don't know whether we have to redo the bid or do it differently or whatever, but I'm not comfortable spending this kind of money based on the information that I have. And it's not going to do us any harm to wait 2 months and get someone in to help us have more information on, can we make it last till 29 years? What are the ramifications with our insurance? What's the ramifications with anything else? We've got a good truck, right? And once we get all that laid out for us, I think we can make a proper decision as we would with anything, okay? So I'm trying to take the emotion out of it. If the truck was falling apart and we weren't servicing people, that's one thing. But I can't see the government saying, heck with you, it's 25 and a half years old. We're going to take the pumper out of business and you guys can go fend for yourself. That's not going to happen. We'd be naive to think that. And so anyway, I'm not supportive of going ahead. So I guess I'm in the negative compared to the first two speakers on this. I really think that we need to look at this closer and think to yourself, if we were spending $750,000 on anything else in this municipality, would we just go and say, this is great? There's a couple of reports here and we're going to approve it. I'll guarantee you we would not. I'll guarantee you we would not. So anyway, thank you. Those are my comments. So I would be looking for direction to staff to work to find someone who can work collaboratively with us. This isn't a we, they kind of thing. I want them to work with Bob. Bob's not an expert in writing tenders. You know, I think we need a little more work. So I guess enough said. So, and again, I'm not against eventually saying, yes, we need this. And that's the decision we have, but not at this point. So thank you.
And lastly, I thought the mayor's memo was pretty good. So I wanted to compliment, as I think Bob was.
Okay, well, thank you. I don't want to start a debate between the fire chief and council here. Did you have something you wished?
I have no question.
Is there something that you Bob, that you really need to respond to? And if so, please do it quickly.
I'm not sure if I really need to respond to it, but you know, yeah, it's a big decision. We'll take whatever council says, but just to clarify a couple of things, I think it was the nursing station or the addition to the township office that we only ever got one bid. And I was surprised sending out 7 that I only got 1 back. And the Burkes Falls fire chief, he was surprised too. So it's not like I only sent out 2 and got back 1. I sent out 7 and you've taken 1 bid before, but whatever council decides, we'll work with. So.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to be brief. I mean, the reason that I wrote this memo is to kind of go through the logic process that I would go through and try to identify what questions I needed answers, felt we needed answers to make a decision. And let me start by saying I'm not suggesting that we just say, forget it, we don't have whenever the pumper we have is no longer serviceable, we just don't have one, we rely on other municipalities. I think that's probably not consistent with, you know, it's certainly not consistent with our mutual aid agreements that we have, as has been pointed out, and it's certainly not consistent with what I think the expectation is of our ratepayers. But I guess I mean, my logical order of questions is, what is the real lifetime of the truck that we have from a practical point of view? And yeah, I get that this shouldn't have sort of come at us all of a sudden the way it did, but nevertheless, I don't see a definitive answer that says exactly how long we can continue to use it. And I just wanted to comment because Bob had mentioned that this fire underwriter service group is a little difficult to deal with. You have to keep something in mind here. Folks in the municipality of Whitestone already are classed at the lowest, unless you live within very close proximity to the fire hall down the road here, then you're in the highest possible fire rating. If you think about your insurance policy that you take out, there's 2 questions they want to know. How close are you to a fire hydrant? Well, that's pretty easy to answer, isn't it? Second question is, how close are you to a fire hall? So by the time you get to but by the time, never mind Maple Island, by the time you get up the hill there and by the time you get down Sunny Slope, you're already down at a low fire rating because or at a low, and sorry, when I say a fire rating, a high risk rating for fire insurance. And the reality of it is when there is a structure fire, a lot of what our folks do is try to make sure that it doesn't spread to anybody else. I mean, you don't have a lot of time with many of those kinds of structures that we have around here to get water on them. So they're not going to, I don't see any consequence, frankly, of this decision on people's fire rates, either the municipality's insurance rates or mine as a ratepayer, let's say. The other, but that's really the question. Okay, how long can we keep the existing truck? And then there is the question about are there any other options available to us to purchase something that would have a good service life and obviously it would have to cost less money. I mean, if it's going to cost the same amount as. And I was able to identify a couple of folks who are in the business of finding these vehicles for people. I did reach out to them just to say, hey, could you help us or not? And the answer I got was yes, but I haven't had any further conversations and I don't really want to until I have a chance to get Bob into the loop. So, but there are, interesting enough, LAS has, if you go and look at their offerings, they say we'll help you purchase. LAS is a service that AMO offers to its members, like us, and they say we'll help you. Interesting in their when you go to their website, it says we'll help you purchase everything from paper clips to fire trucks, and they have such a person, and I know who it is, but we have to get this. We have to see if there's anything there. I'm not going to stand up and tell you, yeah, for sure there are cheaper offerings available that'll meet our needs, because I don't know that, but I think it's worth asking somebody. It shouldn't take us, as Councillor Lamb suggested, it shouldn't take us very long to find out if there is, essentially how much time do we have, and are there any other options other than this one tender that we got? Then. So I think those questions need to be answered first, and then I guess council could, if it turns out that the answer to the question is no, there's nothing else available. We either and we're up against a very short deadline, after which we're going to have problems, with the truck that we have, in getting it accepted by the fire community and the people who inspect them, which, by the way, aren't the fire underwriters. They don't do that. So if we get the answer that there's nothing available, then I guess we have a basic question to answer, which is, do we accept the tender we got, or do we retender in the hopes that we might get some other bidders? And maybe the folks that would be providing us with some assistance might have some suggestions in who we should be approaching, and whether our specifications could be altered in some way that would generate better response, or there's a bunch of those things, and none of us. I'm not suggesting that I know how to do this. I don't think any of the rest of us do either. So I think we need to see if we can get some assistance and figure out the answers to those questions. So, and as I said before, we might end up having to bite the bullet and say, well, yeah, we're going to have to order a truck. Keep in mind, this is not something that I'm sure everybody understands. They don't sit on a lot and you can go and say, I think I like that one. we wouldn't get this truck if we ordered it today. We wouldn't get it till what?
Early 2025, mid.
Yeah, late 2024 sometime maybe, if we're lucky. I'd say, we're that's not an argument to delay till then, obviously, because there's lead time, but I think we should invest a little bit. I'm not in favor of just making a decision tonight to accept the tender that's here. So anyway, those are my comments. Councillor Woods.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just for argument's sake, Manish probably answer this one for me the quickest, I would think. If we pay 300 cash up front right now, if we were to accept this tender, what would the 409 cost us over 25 years on today's rates?
Sorry, how much is the principal you're talking? 400,000?
400, say, 400.
The current bank rate is around 7% as of when the bank rate increased. So every 100,000 is 7,000 per year. So I can say 34,000 only the interest. On top, you have to pay the principal.
Okay. Thanks, Manish. The LAS service. Why didn't we know about this before? I mean, I don't know. Did anybody know about this before, that we had something that we could, rely on somebody else to look for this kind of thing instead of Bob going it alone? Is something we could have looked at a couple of months ago? Just a question. I'm not saying this chokes me thinking that we got to spend this kind of money.
Yeah.
It really does, right? I mean, how much we see the price increase of everything, right? All of our vehicle costs are going super high, right? Equipment's going up. We need a truck, right?
Yeah.
But I hear you. I hear everybody. I can hear everybody's arguments here. We need more information. $700,000 is a lot to swallow. How much is the dump truck's going to cost us that we're going to have to replace? And our pickup truck's going to cost us that's why I asked. And later on, there's something in here about the vehicles, right? Our equipment and our vehicles are going to cost us a tremendous amount of money. And we got some old stuff that we're going to have to renew. I'm not saying I'm 100% in favor of this right now. I do think that we need help, but I think all of us really need to look at the price of our equipment and our tools, because a lot of the times, and I know this because I'm a construction guy, most people, unless you're buying the tools and working them to death every day, you don't realize how much it's going to cost you, replacement value, right? And every single piece of equipment that you buy, from a screwdriver to a fire truck, it has a life expectancy. Every day it costs you so much money to use that tool, to have that tool. And that's not something that I think everybody's always thinking about. I don't know what to do, honestly. I think LAS, if that was an option, that should have been something that Bob should have had that help before, right?
Well, all I can say is that the tender went out without any of the rest of us seeing.
No, Mr. Mayor, hang on a minute. I remember in the meeting that Bob asked specifically if he was allowed to do an RFP, and we told him yes. Now, if it should have come back to us, that I agree with, but nobody told him that in that meeting.
Yeah.
And that's truth. You can go back and listen to that meeting, but there's no point in arguing about that. We're at the stage of the game now.
Yeah,
it is what it, and we all need to work together on things like this a little bit better and communicate a little bit better. But
okay,
it's a real hard one, honestly. I mean, I see the value of a decent pumper truck. We all do, because we're sitting in this building right now that would have burned to the ground if we didn't have one that was functioning properly.
Yeah,
there would have been a lot more damage in here, right?
So,
yeah, no, that's fine. I'm good. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. By the way, another question that I didn't mention, or that I tried to ask, of course, was, and I'm not blaming anybody here, but the original pumper that we got, we actually didn't. We got a grant for it when the municipality was formed. You're not shaking your head, are you? That's what you told me.
Yeah, we got the grant before the municipality was formed.
All right, so, okay, but we did not, and you know, you say, well, why is this out of sight, out of mind? It's because I don't think the municipality in its first year of operation struggled to say, where are we going to find the 300 and whatever $1,000 the bumper was at the time, because the money had already been a grant. So my question was, are there any grants to help people? The word on the street suggests that there aren't. There's still somebody that you could ask, but you know, our circumstances aren't all that different from many municipalities our size who are dealing with this. So this, I mean, this is an issue that other municipalities have dealt with, as the chief has already told us. So anyway, is there any other comments before we wrap this up?
Just quickly, I think, you know, as Brian says, we're all on the same team here. The consensus of what I've heard around the table is that 3 people want to get some more information. And again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Brian, but I think Brian does, the mayor and myself. And again, this doesn't mean, oh, we're not getting pumper, we're not getting, like, we just need more information. We just, in my mind, need more information. And if I read the room right, we got a really busy agenda. Can't we just have staff advice to go find someone that can help or assist us with some of these things and answer some of these questions and come back? I suspect it'll cost us $5,000 or whatever to do that. But if we can get some form of experts to lead us through all this, I think it's money well invested. And again, it may be the same conclusion, but at least we can all feel pretty comfortable that we've done our due diligence. And I don't feel right now that we've done our due diligence on this thing. So thank you.
All right, so I guess what we really need is we need a resolution on what we do by way of direction. And I guess you know, there's the blank paper says that the council of the municipality of Whitestone provides the following direction, and I'm guessing something. Did you have a suggestion, Councillor West?
I just had one more quick question.
All right, go ahead.
How long is that price good for? Right? Like, do we know? Because I know sometimes they'll say, you know, your price is good for 30 days or 60 days and would we have time, say, LAS said, no, that's actually a good price. We couldn't find you anything different. Could we take that price?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I checked with the one bidder on Friday. We've extended our 30 days, which was in the agreement that they had it for. They still have the cabin chassis. They'd honor the price as long as they have it, but once it's gone, you'd have to retender. So
I'm sorry, as long as what?
as long as they still have it, they would honor that price. But if it goes, then you have to retender. So if it sells tomorrow, you lose. If it's still here next week or in 2 weeks, they'll honor that price. So I don't know.
Okay, so you got the answer to your question anyway. Yeah, thank you. All right, go ahead, please. Yes, that's what I was hoping to do next.
I would direct, say something to the effect that council directs staff to seek. Jesus.
Sorry, that's alternate.
No, okay, I don't know who's, I keep thinking it's mine, but maybe it's. Okay, so direct staff to investigate to see if there are people, or to bring back to council or whatever, someone who can assist us through all the things we're talking about tonight. Maybe that's long-winded, but you know, find someone, and you know, I'm sure they'll be able to come to the next council meeting, or not come to it, but at least have a letter saying, hey, for $5,000, I'll research all this stuff and come back to you in a month or so, right? Or whatever, right? And they may say rebid, they may say don't rebid, they may say go buy the truck that was quota. I don't know what they're gonna say, but I don't know whether that's just a staff direction or a motion, right? Like I think that's the simple way to kind of short of just putting the question to approve it or disapprove it tonight, if you want that on, then I don't think that's a wise move, right? Because it might fail, then where do we go?
Yeah, I think we need to give some direction. I mean, we could test the motion, but we could, if somebody wanted to make a motion that we just go ahead and buy it, we could test that, I guess, but
Mr. Mayor, through you, if I might.
Yes.
Sorry, I might be having a bit of audio problem. If you weren't done there, I apologize in advance. I think I was gonna say what you were just saying there, that at least if we test a motion, if we want to buy it now, Councillor Lamb may be totally correct in what he said. At least if we test that, then we'll know what direction to take going after, like, you know, if the purchasing it now fails, then we can come up with the motion on what to do next, which I think might make the most sense. So I have no problem bringing forward a motion that would just be that the Council of Municipality of Whitestone provide the following direction: that the new pumper truck be awarded to Carrier Emergency Services in the amount of, what was it here, $709,459. We can at least test it and see where it goes, and then go from there with the next step if we need to. So if I might.
Can I,
just a second. The Council of the Municipality award.
I think-
Yeah.
Can I speak?
It's award the contract. It's not staff direction. This is we're making a decision here. Award the. Sorry.
Yeah. I'll reread it again to you, Mr. Mayor, that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone provide, or the following direction. I'd said that the new pumper truck be awarded to Carrier Emergency Services in the amount of $709,459 plus HST.
All right, so are you making that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Bray. Seconds. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I will be voting against it, but having said that, I think it's like taking a sledgehammer to a whatever. It's an overreaction. Now we're going to have on record that we've rejected perhaps the bid, and then we're going to go back afterwards and say, well, now we're going to go seek some assistance. I don't know why we don't go to the second step and just get more information. But if you want to test the question, and we're going to spend, because it's not 709, I thought it was, what about taxes?
Plus HST it is.
There you go.
709,
So there's
459
another,
plus HST.
So it's $750,000. Man alive. Okay, well, if that's the motion that's on the table, we want to vote on it, then go ahead.
Yeah, and I think it's well, I think it would be important that for the fire chief to understand that if this motion fails, we're not saying we're not going to do it. We're not going to do it at this time, right?
Oh, no, I understand. Yeah, I mean, do whatever you think is right. But I think whatever you do, you should take some money and fix this system.
Well, all
So
right.
it's not buzzing all the time.
I think what we should do is say perhaps with a further review or something like this, so that we have this, so we. So I know that we have an opportunity to, if we don't do this, it doesn't mean that we won't. That we're rejecting the tender. It's not a tender, it's an RFP, but so. Okay, so are you ready for the question?
Could you please read it again?
Okay, that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone award the contract for the new pumper to carrier emergency vehicle in the amount of $709,459 plus HST.
Just have one more quick question.
Fire chief, what?
Never mind, do what you
No.
think you do. I mean, is there a way that we can do this study? If they come back and say, yes, you should have bought this truck. Say it's passed tonight, but we don't actually phone them and say, hey, you got the truck, or you got the contract. We
No,
do the Study.
This is I mean, I guess Councillor Lamb is a legitimate concern. It's a public meeting and I think we're not,
Okay, well, whatever.
we can't. Yeah, Madam Clerk, do you wanna?
Thank you. Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
No.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
No.
Mayor Comrie.
No.
That motion fails.
So can I make a motion
Yeah,
now?
now you may. Yes, go ahead, please.
I'd make a motion that staff investigate assistance in purchasing a new pumper truck from, I don't know whether to call them experts, but from outside sources or something to that effect. And bring that back to
Assistance
council
in-
for approval, right?
Yeah,
So when I would.
maybe seek assistance, yeah.
Yeah, they're just seeking assistance through the
Seek
process,
assistance.
right? And
In
you know,
procuring,
and they could come back, I'm sure, by the next council meeting and say, you're gonna charge you $5,000 or whatever it is. To lead you through the process and look at all the options and come back with a report to you, and then you can make your mind up. That's what makes sense from a business standpoint. If this was a business, there's no way in God's green earth that this would ever happen like this. No way.
okay, so the motion Councillor Lamb has moved is that staff seek external assistance in procuring a new pumper truck. Seconded by Councillor Woods, and seconded. Oops,
I'm sorry, maybe.
well, it's, yeah, either one of us can start it or stop it, I guess. Is it, are we ready for the question then, folks? Yeah. All those in favor, Madam CIO?
Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
That motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Well, we still have some time on the clock. Bylaws 10.1. A question from the fire chief?
Yeah, I take it Michelle's gonna do this, do the sourcing for somebody, just because she's probably better at it than I am. Cause, is that correct? Or, yeah, okay, good, that's fine with me, yeah.
We'll work together, right?
Yeah, if she needs some help, she can ask me, but I'd rather it be done by Michelle, then I don't have any bias. It's good with me.
No.
No, let me speak to that. I will provide help to you, Chief Whitman, but I won't do it on my own because you're the fire chief, you're the expert. I can maybe help. So I think it's going to be collaborative. If
But I'm
council
not an
wants it to
expert
be.
at finding people to do this stuff, so.
Okay.
I
And
think
maybe
it
it's
should be
not
you.
possible, but why don't we work together and see what we can find?
Okay. Thank you. If we could move on to 10.1, which is the bylaw related to that third consent application that the applicant is sitting here waiting patiently. So that And looking for a mover and seconder that bylaw number 43-2023 being a bylaw to enter into an agreement for conditions of approval of consent. That's B 51-2021 Whitestone. The applicant is DT Enterprises North Limited. Assessment roll number 4939-010-008-02600. Be read a first and second time this 20th day of June 2023, and further read a third time, passed and properly signed and sealed this 20th day of June 2023, and numbered bylaw 43-2023. Moved by Councillor Lamb, seconded by Councillor Woods. Any further discussion? If not, we can have the question, Madam Clerk.
Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb.
Yeah.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. And the next one is item 10.2, which is our being a bylaw to adopt the estimates of all sums required in the year and to adopt rates of taxation. I need a mover and seconder that the council of the municipality of Whitestone hereby approves bylaw 44-2023 being a bylaw to adopt the estimates of all sums required during the year and to adopt the rate of taxation for the year 2023. Sorry. The bylaw. All right. It's a lot of words in this one sentence, but anyway, that the bylaw be read a first and second time this 20th day of June 2023, and further read a third time, passed and properly signed and sealed this 20th day of June 2023, and numbered bylaw 44-2023. Who would like to move that? Councillor Bray, seconded by Councillor Woods. Any further discussion? Once again, I guess we'll have the roll call.
Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
you're on mute, Councillor Nash.
Yes, sorry about that. Sorry.
You're muted again, Councillor Nash.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
That's a yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie,
Yes,
that motion carries.
thank you. So we're on to item 11, which is business matters. The first one, 11.1, is an overture from the Dunchurch Agricultural Society asking about asking about the two, essentially about the two new properties that the municipality purchased on either side of our existing property. And I have a suggested motion. See if we can get a mover and seconder here. That the council of the municipality of Whitestone receives for information the correspondence from the Dunchurch Agricultural Society dated June 6, 2023. And that the council of the municipality of Whitestone advises that no decisions have been made in respect of the use and or improvements to the newly acquired lands located at 2211 Highway 124. And that the council of the municipality of Whitestone approves the use of the paved parking area 2125 Highway 124 for parking during the week of the 2023 annual Dunchurch Agricultural Fair. That's the motion. Would someone like to move that motion? Councillor Woods is moving, Councillor Bray is seconding. Any discussion on this one? Councillor Lamb?
No.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were. Oh, all right, okay. Counselor Woods.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just reading through this, the Agriculture Society, I guess, is asking to use the parking area over at the Twist property that we bought. right?
Yeah.
I would hope that they would use the rest of the property too, if they had extra stuff for the fair. Right, we got a lot of grass over there for if we wanted, I know we used to have the animals down there a lot, or if they wanted to use extra grassland space, we could utilize that property as well. Right? I would say let them use whatever they have to. Our fair is great. I know people that travel an hour and a half to come to our little fair. Everybody loves it.
Okay, so just if I understand, you're saying don't just use it as a parking area, use it for other.
Well, if they were just gonna park on the paved area and then we're just gonna leave the grass area as nothing, or you just use the grass area as well for any extension that we need for the fair.
So you would be saying that we would be, I guess, wanting to amend the motion to add something to the effect that we advise them that they could use the grassed area of it for other.
Yeah, I think we
For
should do-
for other fair related functions if they wish, yeah.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to I forget who was the seconder, was Councilor Bray. Does that make sense to you? I mean, I don't, I wasn't a party to any discussions about this. It just came sort of in the mail, so I don't know. But
If I may, I think we just want to make sure that they don't use the septic area, but that would, I think that is, goes without question. I think they would agree.
Yeah, you can't park on a septic or drive on a septic.
there's a septic area out here though, right? That they,
There is, we just don't want people parking on the septic area. at
we don't want
the-
them
at the
parking on
Twist
it,
with
absolutely,
the-
yeah.
With the vehicle.
But we do other things on it. Yeah, okay, all right. Okay, so is that under, we just add that to the motion that that we advise them that they could consider using the grassland area part for other fair functions if they wish. All right, so can we call this question? Are we ready, or are there more comments?
Jesus.
So I've changed the last that to say that the council of the municipality of Whitestone approves the use of the paved parking area and the grassed area at 2125 Highway 124 for parking and other uses during the week of the 2023 annual Dunchurch Agricultural Fair. Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Sorry, yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion is carried.
Okay, so we are at curfew. Can we get a motion that council continues its council meeting past the allotted time of 3.5 hours? And continue for an additional 1/2 hour? Councillor Woods moves. Councillor Bray seconds. I guess we are going to have to wait for a second until Councillor Lambert returns.
Calling the vote, Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
What's this one?
Curfew.
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 Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion's carried.
All right, thank you. So item 11.2 has two parts, and I guess what I'd like to do is separate them into two parts because because they're not really related. Well, maybe they are. I don't know. Well, yeah, let's. The first part is a motion that a special council meeting be called for the purpose of considering amendments and refinements to an updated procedural bylaw. And there's a blank space, of course, for the suggestion as to when this could happen. So I guess what I would do is ask the CAO, our CAO crafted this, when are you thinking that you would be in a position to do this?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What I can tell you is that there has been, as far as I know, we've received input from 4 members of council. We're waiting for one on the procedure bylaw that was presented, I believe, last December. So there was some suggested amendments and edits that have been suggested. As far as a particular date, one of the reasons I brought it to councils is because if we're all here in the same room, people can check their calendars for availability and we can choose a time. I think the importance of this is that it's going to take enough time that it requires a special council meeting, that it shouldn't be part of an ordinary business meeting. And that way we're focusing on one particular issue, which is the procedure bylaw. So my suggestion is people could have a look at their calendars and we can look at, we start looking into July, of course, and people's availability. We, of course, have a council meeting, regular council meeting, July 4th. We have a regular closed council meeting, July 6th. And the other regular council meeting in July is July 18th. And from there, then we're into August. So that leaves July fairly open in terms of the calendar. And, the idea is just to check people's availability when they may be able to have a meeting. We can maybe look at Tuesdays, for instance. Maybe I'll just pull a day out of the hat. How about Tuesday, July 25th?
I'll try to put this on. I think it's through you, Mr. Mayor, a good idea that we have a separate meeting versus trying to put it into one of these other meetings. Been a long time. We've got to put this thing to bed. So, but staff obviously have a meeting on the 4th and the 18th. If it doesn't jam you up too much to have it on the 11th. Again, it's 2 weeks. Now you're into whatever. And if there's other amendments, we're going to be through a year's council to get a procedural bylaw, right? But that's a staff thing. Other than that, I guess it's the 26th, right? Or 25th or whatever. Ultimately, it's staff, not me, but or council, like, what can you work with?
We can work with either of those dates.
Unfortunately, I'm not in a position to respond because I had forgotten that we were trying to do this, and I know I do have some commitments in July, but I can't tell you for sure whether I'll certainly be here for the council meetings, but I don't know if you're suggesting the same. Sorry, you're talking about the week in between the two, that is in between the two council meetings, right?
That's right. if you don't mind me saying, and this is not to point anyone out, but we are waiting for your comments, Mr. Mayor, and I know you've been doing other things, so that's not an accusation, just an observation. That and maybe you yourself need until the 25th and to get your comments in, so they can then be integrated into the document. So the document that council would be given to council would be, it would be a busy document. So it would show everybody's intended or requested amendments, and some of them may there may be differences of opinion on certain components. So if that's the case, if you're ready to provide us with your comments, Mr. Mayor, or in the near future, then I would suggest we probably need until the 25th to get those into the document and prepare for the meeting.
I am at this point not available on the 25th.
Okay, that's helpful.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, the 25th was going to be busy for me, but I was available on the 11th.
Sorry, are you talking about doing it? The 11th is a Tuesday. Are you talking about doing it in the evening, during the day, or when you?
Well, that's the other piece. I think we could do it by Zoom. It's a special council meeting. We've done that in the past if council is agreeable. And then the start time would be certainly up to members of council. We've kind of landed on a 4 o'clock meeting for.
Yeah.
Right. Would 4 o'clock be agreeable, Councillor Woods?
Yeah.
I think the only piece is that we may not have the mayor's comments integrated into the document, but that can be part of the discussion on the 11th, because there's only one of me right now, so that sort of creates a challenge.
Just
in
to
terms of
comment
private.
on, just on that particular subject. When we had the last discussion, I mean, I was starting to sort of try and make notes of what people were suggesting. And I gave up because there were large numbers. Candidly, there were large numbers of suggested changes that I considered are ultra vires and not consistent with the municipal act. So most of my reaction is to other things that people suggested. I saw the document that was presented to council before it was presented, and most of, with the exception of a few things that are just kind of afterthoughts, really, if a fair bit of work was done on it, and it was a fairly consistent document. So most of my comments would be probably along the lines of not to mess with it, as opposed to going and adding a whole bunch of things. And the other comment I would make in advance of whatever meeting we have, and I think we should have a separate meeting, but you have to think about the sort of policy intent of what you want. Trying to edit a document that somebody has that's already gone through, judicial, a legal review and all of this kind of thing is I think what people need to think about is, well, what are the things that cause our meetings not to work very well, or that would make them work better, and focus on those kinds of things, as opposed to trying to edit the document. When the thing is finished, when the council finishes with what it wants, it'll still have to get sent. In my opinion, it still have to be sent to a lawyer to review to make sure it's consistent, right? Which I think applies to all our bylaws, by the way. We
But we're going to say July 11th at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, I don't know that there's anything wrong with that. I guess if I apologize if I discovered that there is, and I'm gonna let you know right away, but I think it's.
Councillor Nash, I know you commented on the 25th. Is the 11th? Does the 11th work for you?
Yeah, the 11th would work fine, and sorry to get off track here, but I know I have to be up early tomorrow, so I'm gonna see if we can push this along to finish the council meeting as quickly as we can here, sorry. But yeah, 11th is fine at 4 o'clock.
Thank you.
Okay.
So that's duly noted, and we'll confirm with the mayor tomorrow, and we'll let you know if this needs to be revised, hopefully not. So if I could speak to the second part of the motion.
Yeah,
I
why
don't
don't
I
you
don't
do
have a
that
problem
first and then,
separating it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The all the work we've done on the strategic plan, there was in our action plans, there was a number of items identified that were likely 2023, and these were basically related to some bylaws and policies that have been thought about for the last year or so, or more. One is the short-term rental bylaw, which did get some traction at one time, and then the election came along, and there was some other reasons that we sort of stopped working on that. We talked about the animal bylaw, the trailer bylaw, and the parking bylaw. Now, I do know the mayor is working on the parking bylaw, and I think he can work in concert with our public works manager, David Creaser. So we have tried to do this before, have meetings about bylaws. We did it with the dog bylaw, and I believe there was the waste management bylaw. So there was a measure of success, and I think where we could have done better is we didn't create a terms of reference. And I think the terms of reference would identify really what does the policy say, not necessarily asking the members of council to write the bylaw. That's what staff are for, and that's why we have experts in our legal areas. But certainly, what does a short-term rental bylaw look like? What does the policy look like? What's the intent? What's the deliverable at the end? And one of the things is enforcement. The animal bylaw, should it be combined with the dog bylaw, or is there an appetite for an animal bylaw? So these are the questions that needed to be asked. And I had, as you noted, recommended in my memo that, 2 members of council sit on a task force to help staff understand generally what council's thinking. It will come back to council a couple of times, make sure that the intent of the policy and bylaw is there, and then it will get written and get some legal review and come back. So it's not a lengthy process, but it doesn't happen in 1 or 2 meetings. So that was my intent, to get councillors involved in these, and there may be others that are important. I know there's a couple I'm working on myself that I don't think I need a task force for, but these are the ones that I think have caught the public's attention. So that was my intent, to see if there was an appetite for creating a task force specific to moving these priorities along. We're almost at the end of Q2 now, and I think we want to get some of these things done before we hit 2024.
all right, well, thank you. I don't know. I guess my reaction to this was, and I think it's an attempt to answer a legitimate question, which is how do we sort of get any of this work done that we said we were going to do? My observation is that this particular approach, unless we do something different than we have in the past, this particular approach has not been successful for us in the past. Let's be honest here, and I think we need to. There needs somehow or other to be some facilitation on it. And again, I'm going to repeat myself. The thing that doesn't work very well is to have, and it doesn't work in any context. Trust me on this. I've worked on this kind of thing for 20, 30 years. It's very difficult for people to discern the policy content from when they're looking at a legal drafting. What you really need to do is you need to sit down and think about what is the policy intent what are the consequences of doing or not doing various things, putting various things in the bylaw, restricting them, et cetera, whatever. And then you get somebody to write. Once you know what that is, you can get somebody to write the legalese and hopefully it'll match, so we actually made a lot of progress on the short-term rentals bylaw. So I would say we're pretty close. I mean, I guess if council wants to go back and open up the whole subject from scratch, that could be a big thing, but I'm not sure. You know, in the current circumstances, we're a little short of staff and it's not likely that in the near future, we're going to have somebody who can come and sort of try to steer people through this. You know, we can have someone come and take notes, I guess, but you know, it's so I'm honestly questioning whether this would work. Some of the other ones, you know, that are not as like the animal bylaw and the trailer bylaw, there was work done on that, but it didn't get very far. Trailer bylaw maybe is not all that consequential, but you know, the parking bylaw without somebody to advise you on legal matters, I don't know how two counselors are gonna and a staff person, none of whom are familiar with the law, and these things are going to get too much done, right? So that's my concern about this. I don't know. Obviously, I mean, this is sort of suggested as a way forward, but if we were actually going to do something about it, we would need to populate these little task forces and then somebody would have to gather up all the reference material for them to start working on and so on. So I don't know. What do the rest of you think? I mean, I don't even know what
through you.
I would just comment that in a municipal, in most municipalities, what would happen is these drafts of these things and the policy frameworks to start with would come from staff in the first place, right? I mean, these are not things that councillors usually, I mean, not to say that councillors wouldn't sit on a little task force to consider it, but they don't usually start with a blank slate.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, if I might.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'd agree with what you were saying there at the end. I think a lot of the time I would expect that these items would come from staff who might have sought some, be it a legal opinion or something. And I would think instead of having task forces, which I think haven't gone over the best in some cases when staff and counselors have been put together, that possibly, you know, you have a draft brought to a council meeting, similar to the procedural bylaw. Comments are provided. It's very transparent. The public sees what's going on. Those comments are taken back. Staff updates them, gets a legal opinion. I see it working in that kind of way. And I think you said in the past, maybe the way we've been doing it hasn't been working. And I think you said a lot of the time that it's not really up for counselors to be writing some of these bylaws, if I'm correct. So I guess it would lead me to one question. Why are you working on the parking bylaw without us knowing? Mr. Mayor?
I'm not actually working on the parking bylaw. I was because there was well, and with there was an assistance of a legal advisor, because parking bylaws are a very specialized kind of thing, and so you know, we were, as you will recall, we were up against a deadline to have that bylaw in place because of what council had agreed to do at the Washkash landings, right? So it was a matter of getting something done. We did not have staff resources to work on this.
I know.
Still don't today have staff resources to work on it. I'm
not trying to
the CIO is being modest here, but we would have to go out and get people to help with these.
I'm not trying to create a whatever, but I think for transparency, I think it's fair for the rest of council to know when a mayor's working on a parking bylaw, for example, that's not transparent whatsoever. And I think we need to be a much more transparent council and ensure that, you know, council are doing things that they've been requested to do, all of council. Anyways, just my opinion, but I think I've said enough on it. Thank you.
Any comments, anybody else?
Yeah, I have a couple.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Mann.
I don't know whether this is going, oh, Jesus. Hello? Maybe farther away, I don't know. I've seen these committees sort of work with councillors on them. I think it's dangerous, my experience. It's dangerous to put.
I think we've lost audio again. If somebody's speaking, I'm not sure.
Good, well, maybe, sorry, Councillor Nash. I just don't think this kind of sort of works to put two councillors in with the bylaw and someone else and I've seen it work too much. I know more about short-term rentals, I would put, than most people. The only reason I ever wanted this done was to make it enforceable and make the penalties enough that it got their attention. Those are the only two things, right? Instead, we're off writing new, brand new, you know, whatever. And I think that it needs to be updated. But I think some of these things have to be pushed off until we have the staff in place who can do it. Or secondly, we go out and contract some of this work out. If we don't have the staff, we're obviously not paying the staff. So, you know, maybe we need to think out of the box here and do something different, right? I just, you know, the trailer bylaw has been sitting around a long time. The animal bylaw, for goodness sakes, we were talking about chickens and whatever 3 years ago or 2.5 years, 4 years ago, Councillor Woods says. So what we've done in the past hasn't worked. And so I don't know, maybe we need to put this back on the agenda because we're running out of time here, you know, for us to all think about. I don't know what the answer is, quite frankly, right? But I don't think it's all of us boodling out and starting to work on bylaws. And I appreciate fully that we're understaffed and you can't expect our CAO to be doing all this stuff. So I don't know what the answer is, I guess, but I don't think it's to put two people from council on every. I think we need to think through it a bit. And we're 10:25 at night with 5 minutes left. So I don't. Oh, sorry. That's my thoughts. So defer it.
So
I'm happy to bring some suggestions back to council on this. If we want to just agree to the procedure bylaw for this motion, the July 11th date at 4 p.m. And then I'll give some thought to how to move forward with those other bylaws. I have some suggestions.
all right, so can you call a question on that part of it and we'll defer the second part?
Thank you, Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb, Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, next one is 11.3 is a memo on municipal planning services. The motion I'm looking for is that the Council of Municipality Whitestone receives for information the memorandum from CAO Clerk Henry entitled RFP 2023-09 Municipal Planning Services dated June 20th, 2023. And that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone appoints the following members of council to review and evaluate the proposals received in respect of RFP 2023-09 Municipal Planning Services and provide recommendations to council. That would. What is the closing date for that? Sorry.
Closing date is, yeah, sorry, I could have put that in the memo. I think it's
I'm sorry, I don't.
No, no,
I
that's
could flip it open here. I just.
excellent.
I'm a few pages behind here.
Yeah, it's not in there. It's yeah, July 4th. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
So anyway.
I'll
like
make
to
the
move
motion.
that. Councillor Lamb is moving.
Yeah, I'll move
Who's
it.
seconding? Councillor Woods? Okay, thank you.
And I'll put my own name down for that. I'd like to be on that. I think I bring some skills from the planning board and knowing what the planning board is doing. I think that if we've heard anything over the months and years, it's this idea that you've got people, I'll call it double dipping, but people know what I do on council, right? So I think whatever way the planning board goes, I think if it's planner A, I think Whitestone has to go planner B or vice versa, right? So, but having said that, I would like to be, or I'll volunteer to be part of that committee.
If I could just add one item, the way the RFP reads is that there's every expectation that a shortlist would be created, and then on that shortlist there would be presentations to all of council. This is a big deal to hire planning services. It's intended to be a 4-year contract. It doesn't have to be. There's a termination clause built into it. But I think all of council at some point needs to be able to ask questions of the potential service provider. So it'll be a 2-step.
So what do you want 2 people on council to do?
Well, it depends on, there'll be an evaluation process, and I think you'll want a short list of 2 service
From the
providers.
4 or whatever.
From if you get 4 or 5.
Okay.
That's.
Well, I'm willing to do that. Thank you.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd be willing to put my name up. I'm also sit on the planning board, as everybody knows. So I'd also be willing to put my name up for part of that evaluation team, should council wish to allow me to do that.
Any others?
In the back of my mind, I suppose I'm wondering whether there is any sort of potential conflict between having people that are on the planning board doing this, but which is obviously, and their services that these people provide are independent, but I don't know, perhaps the not that they'd be able to use the same people for the planning board, I guess, but maybe it's anyway. I'm not trying to fight for a position on it or anything. We have 2 volunteers. Are there any other ones? Anybody else really want to do this? If not, I guess we'll call a question the way it is.
Thank you, Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Yes, we're now at curfew. I would suggest that again, Councillor Nash is a operation in the morning, and I think most of the rest of this can be deferred to the next meeting. Because some of them will take a lot more time than a minute or 2. So if we could just I think just defer the rest
Yeah.
to the next meeting, right? But sometimes this stuff, gee, astounding.
They can't hear you.
Man, I'll go back. I think we should defer the rest of the discussion to the next meeting. But I think sometimes maybe we have to move business matters up a little bit in the agenda, right? So that we're not always dealing with these sorts of things, some of which are kind of important things, so late in the night, right? So that's my only comment, but I think we can be done for tonight and, go through adjournment and that kind of stuff. So, pardon?
And Counselor Lamb, I appreciate your comment about me. Yes, I'd love.
Yeah,
to see the
good luck
meeting
tomorrow.
here.
Okay, well, thank you. If it's the will of council, we can defer the balance of the meeting with the exception of we have two sort of normal things that we would do to wrap it up. The first being the procedure bylaw and the second, or the procedure bylaw, the confirmatory bylaw, I'm sorry. And the second being the motion to adjourn, and then we can defer the rest of the business. So I could, if I could just ask for, this is a motion for the procedure for the confirmatory bylaw. See, I'm stuck in a rut. You can tell it's getting too late already. Confirmatory bylaw, moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Bray. Thank you. Can you call the question, please,
thank you.
Madam CEO?
Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie,
Yes.
that motion carries.
And finally, we won't say whereas the business of the meeting has concluded because it hasn't, but therefore be it resolved that this meeting be adjourned at 10:30 PM until the regular council meeting of Tuesday, July 4th at 4 PM or the call of the chair. Mover and seconder, moved by Councillor Woods, seconded by Councillor Bray. Let's call that one.
Councillor Bray,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Thanks, everybody, for your patience and perseverance, and we'll have a good evening. Have a good rest of your week.
Good night, all. Good night.